It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Gary Rivlin is here, the author of AI Valley. We're glad to welcome our first Pulitzer Prize winner onto the show. Ian Thompson's here from the Register. Owen Thomas from the San Francisco Business Journal. We're going to talk about Apple. Big spanking in court this week. Google saying, please, Your Honor, don't make a spin-off search. And finally, Jeff Bezos gets his first Kuiper satellites in the sky. All of that and more coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 1030, recorded Sunday, May 4th, 2025. Journalism comes in second. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. I'm pleased to bring together three stellar journalists. Owen Thomas is here from the San Francisco Business Times. He's managing editor there. Great to see you again, Owen. You're getting buffer and buffer. Would you stop lifting? We're going to have to do a movie about you. We'll call it, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what we should call it. But Pumping tech news. Yeah, that's it.
I flipped some tires this morning just to prepare for this show.
Did you really? Oh, you're Mr. CrossFit now, huh? All right. It's great to see you, Owen. Always a welcome voice on the show. Ian Thompson is also here. Mere technology reporter now. He got out of the editing gig at theregister.com. Always great to see you, Ian. Thank you for being here.
Always fun, and reporting is always good. It's been a busy week this week.
We need more reporters. Joining us for the first time, I'm thrilled to have him, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist, Gary Rivlin. His latest book, AI Valley, but you've read him in many publications, and of course, he won the Pulitzer for Katrina. It was for Katrina, wasn't it?
No, the Panama Papers.
Oh, that's right, the Panama Papers.
Or the investigative team, yeah.
That was huge. That was something else.
That was fun. Like, we had to keep the secret for a year. That was actually the hardest part, not to tell anyone.
Was there, it's funny because it revealed really how much hidden money there is in politics and business everywhere, but it didn't feel like anything ever came of it. Like, nobody went to jail.
That's not 100% true. I mean, some politicians were kicked out of office. There were some changes. I mean, not in the U.S., but it's funny. I had the sports stars like Lionel Messi and other big names. They would get their salary, but their cleats money, their endorsement deals, they would kind of hide it overseas to avoid paying taxes. So that practice ended because they were outed and embarrassed.
Yeah. It stopped it anyway. Yeah. I guess that's a good
well, it stopped some, and then they
moved to the Cayman Islands. Is what happened.
Exactly. Bad news for Panama, good news for the Caymans.
The situation in Malta isn't great, but yes.
I wish I had enough money to sock away somewhere in some hidden tax haven, but I'm afraid I have to pay tax on all of it. So who is in trouble and big time is Apple Computer. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers blasted Apple, saying, you lied to me. This was in the Apple versus Epic case, which, by the way, Apple pretty much won, except for one little bit. The judge ordered Apple to let app developers, show you a link where you could go to buy something without giving Apple 30%. Use the Kindle app on your iPhone. It doesn't mention you can't buy books in the Kindle app because Apple won't let them say you could buy it on Amazon and you'd be able to read it here. That wasn't allowed. The judge said, no, you got to allow outside linking. You got to let developers have other methods of making purchases outside the App Store, and you got to allow them to say something about it. Apple, the judge wrote, despite knowing its obligations thereunder, under the court order, thwarted the injunction's goals and continued its anti-competitive conduct solely to maintain its revenue stream. One of the things Apple did was they said, okay, well, you can have another store, but we're going to still take 27%.
It's malicious compliance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Malicious compliance was the exact right term for it. In her ruling, the judge said an Apple executive, Alex Roman, who's vice president of finance, quote, this is the judge's words, outright lied under oath. She said that Cook sided with his finance team instead of another Apple executive, Phil Schiller, who had advocated that Apple comply with the injunction. She wrote, again, this is the judge, Cook chose poorly.
that's a polite way of saying it.
Wow. Apple has said, we strongly disagree with the decision. We'll comply with the court's orders and we will appeal. Now, complying means there's suddenly a wide open opportunity for third parties. Fortnite, for instance, which is from Epic Games, which is kind of the source of this whole lawsuit, says we're going back to iOS next week.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, because Apple is. I'm trying to think of a suitable analogy, but about as protective as a grizzly bear about her cubs when it comes to their 30% cut. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play this in the courts.
Well, I mean, they're embarrassed. There was a scolding by a judge, but arguably economically it was the right decision. Like, oh, okay, well, sorry. And, eventually they'll change it. And meanwhile, what kind of penalty will there be with all this, okay, you didn't listen. What's the financial cost of not doing? And arguably they are going to end up winning despite them violating the court order because, okay, eventually they'll change it, but they've made all this money in the meantime, violating the order.
No, I mean, I kind of like the Scandinavian view of taking fines where you base on revenue and personal order. Whereas this, I suspect if they get a fine, it'll be at a cost of doing business fine.
Right. Make it hurt.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see, though, if there's a flood of apps, changing, updating, new apps like Fortnite coming back to iOS. I imagine at this point, there'll be a flood. Maybe not, though. Maybe people have kind of, speaking of the cost of doing business, kind of gotten used to the fact that Apple's going to take 30% and living with it,
Well, I mean, who's going to go up against Apple?
Right.
The thing is, there's a limited set of apps that are kind of like Fortnite or Roblox, say, that are kind of apps within apps, stores within stores.
Definitely.
The 30% commission really dates back to the iTunes Music Store when Apple was selling 99-cent MP3s, and it barely covered the credit card cost of processing that transaction. So originally Apple wasn't making much money, but they just kept the 30%. I think that 30% is the wrong number in this day and age. I think 0% is also the wrong number.
There's some amount of money. Yeah. I mean, credit cards charge 3 or 4%, right?
But as long as there's actual responsibility, because one of the things that Apple did and Google Play did very worse was, if you buy from us from the official store, you're probably not going to get malware. And that's something Apple has done very well. Android has done less well.
What is the word probably worth, though, right?
Yeah,
probably.
True. Yeah.
There has been malware in the Apple store, right?
Yeah, there's been malware in every store. But, at least it's better than buying from a third party.
Is there less in Apple Store than there is in the Google Play Store?
And in my experience, yes.
Okay. So it's a little safer than Google.
A little,
Android.
but there's no such thing as 100% security,
right.
And Apple have proved that.
Well, it didn't hurt Apple's quarterly results. They came out on May 1st, on Wednesday, and they did very well. So well that they're, in fact, doing a $100 billion stock buyback, which is one way to prop your stock price up. We don't really report on finance in this show because
it used to be illegal 30 years ago, but such is life.
What used to be legal?
Stock buybacks.
It's still legal. Can't you? Of course it's legal.
No. It used to be illegal.
Oh, it used to be illegal.
Yeah.
Until like this, I think in the 70s it changed.
Is that a Bill Clintonism that?
No, it was Reagan in the 80s.
Reagan.
Basically, they eliminated any kind of penalty for stock buybacks because it would apparently let small companies buy back into their stock and the rest of it. In terms of how it's worked out for Intel in particular, where they were spending huge amounts on stock buybacks to keep stock price up, it's not gone well.
Yeah.
The the thing is in Silicon Valley too, like these companies are issuing so many shares to their employees as compensation. They kind of have to do stock buybacks just to keep things like even, to keep from diluting their shareholders.
Oh, that's a good reason.
You're gonna see some level of stock buybacks, and it's arguably a more tax efficient way of kind of returning capital to shareholders than dividends.
Right.
But
they do both, of course.
Yeah, no, and that's a change. You see more companies issuing dividends. But yeah, Apple has no problem generating cash. And I want to flag that they're doing almost a quarter of their revenue off of services now, which is remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, they doubled service revenues. Now, this might be the last great quarter for Apple because of tariffs are going to hit pretty hard, I imagine, in the next few months.
Oh, come on, no. Apple's going to get
exemption as they did in 2018 or 2017. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You think?
Why are you so certain about that?
Because Tim Apple is sucking up to Trump. It's simple as that. It's just like, feed his ego, get it on.
Apple stuff mostly ships from China, which has 145% tariff. They thought they were doing the smart thing, moving manufacture to Vietnam, which is now paying 46% tariff. So they said, oh, you know what? We're going to make all the new iPhones in India. Yeah, that's it, India. And I think there's still a pretty hefty tariff against India. But look, they had a great quarter. Revenue is up 7% year over year. iPad up 15% year over year. iPhone up 2%. You don't expect huge growth in the iPhone, but still a growth. Services up 12%. Apple had a very, very profitable quarter, but tariffs are, of course, the big question mark on the horizon.
A second big question too: artificial intelligence. They were far ahead of most companies with Siri, but they keep on fumbling the ball. It's 2.5 years after ChatGPT, and they keep fumbling. I'm not saying Tim Cook chose poorly, but maybe some of that $100 billion should have gone to training models and kind of not being behind on AI. Apple's still Apple. They have 1 billion whatever phones out there, and they could be late and still win.
Well, I think Apple's going to do what they did with Google in that they're going to take the best available option and integrate it in. They haven't bothered to develop it much themselves, so it's just like, okay, right. It's kind of like the iPhone scenario. They weren't the first to invent the smartphone, but at the same time, they did it better than anyone else. Right. I think they may do the same with AI.
When you wrote AI Valley, Gary, was Apple still considered a player in AI, or had they already started to go downhill? It just came out, right?
Yeah, they were also ran, though I actually, in an epilogue to the book, I kind of said what I just said, that, Apple is Apple. Just, I could say the same about Google, right? They were far ahead of AI, but then, kind of were too scared to put out their chatbot. But they fumbled, they did all these silly things like the LLM, the chatbot would suggest, put a little bit of gasoline on your spaghetti sauce to add spice.
Elmer's glue to hold that cheese on the pizza.
Eat a rock a day for your minerals. So every time they stepped on the stage in 2023, 2024, they fell flat on their face.
That's true.
Look at Gemini. It's top 3. The ChatGPT is winning, but, Gemini is right in the race because they're Google. They're the front door for a lot of people.
It's also still early. It's still early days. So you can stumble in the first, to do a Kentucky Derby metaphor, you can stumble in the first few furlongs, but you've got to come back.
Right.
Apple feels like, it'll be very interesting. WWDC is coming up June 9th. So the first hearing they've had was this quarterly results that, I don't think they said anything of real importance, but WWDC will be fairly important. They've got to convince developers at least that they are a player in this game. Google has already said we got a deal. Sundar Pichai said we've got a deal with Apple. You're gonna see a Gemini in Apple Intelligence soon. That's maybe what Apple needs to do is go out to people like OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and say, hey, can we borrow a cup of AI while we're still cooking our own in the back here?
Well, they had kind of deal with OpenAI for
that's right. That's right. ChatGPT.
Yeah.
The question is how well they'll integrate it. Because right now the way it works is if Siri can't answer something, which she pretty much can't ever, they'll give you an offer in Apple Intelligence. Although to go to ChatGPT. Although now that I think of it, I wonder if the general public. We're paying close attention to this, but I wonder if the general public is aware. My son just bought a new iPhone 16. He said, because I wanted the AI. He said it's really cool. So maybe the general public still is happy with Genmojis and Image Playground and the kind of.
The general public is generally fearful of AI. I mean,
right? They don't want too much. Yeah.
Pew did a poll last year, and the majority of people were fearful. Like less than a third were excited.
Interesting. Interesting. So it doesn't really in the real world hurt Apple.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to your point, where it's just very, very early. Like those of us on shows like this, we're paying a lot of attention, but they still have time.
And the iPhone's market share is so high, especially in the US and other Western markets, that they could be a kingmaker in AI. So if they tightly integrate Gemini, for example, that could very well give Google a much needed boost against OpenAI.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. As
So
in the words of to paraphrase Oprah Winfrey, 1 billion iPhones in your pockets, y'all. Just that market share is enough to probably put them back into the game. Anybody, right? All right.
Same with Amazon. Amazon is, they were Alexa, they were early on AI, and they're far behind. But it's they have the reach.
Who's the front runner now, Gary?
OpenAI.
Still.
I mean, by far, well, two things. One, by far and away, ChatGPT is 400 million monthly users, something like that. No one's even close. Like for a while, Anthropic's Claude seemed like, it's catching up.
For coders, I think Claude is pretty hot, right?
Yeah, I use Claude. I love it. Most journalists, most writers I know love Claude. But popularity wise, and beyond that, OpenAI, they're in everything, right? I mean, they have text to video, text to audio. They're offering a full range. So, right now, OpenAI is ahead. Their problem is that they don't have an extra 100 billion lying around like an Apple or a Microsoft, and stuff is expensive. And, they just raised $40 billion, and they're probably gonna have to raise another huge sum like that, tens of billions within a year or two.
It is an expensive business to be in.
Without much revenue. I should correct that. I mean, they made $3.5–4 billion last year.
Yeah, but that's nothing.
Well, because it costed $9 billion or $10 billion
to make $3 billion. That's you can't sustain that too long. I mean, I'm not a businessman, but I think that there seems to be you need to do something. It's very interesting. This is a rare judicial spanking for Apple. I don't know what will happen to the Apple executive who's accused of lying by the judge. You're right, Gary. The judge didn't say anything about fines or punishments or anything. She just said, "You got to do what I told you to do, so knock it off."
Yeah, and he might get a raise.
Yeah. Who knows?
The judge cannot. The judge cannot, on her own, engage in criminal contempt proceedings. She has to refer that to the Department of Justice. So it really kicks over to the Trump administration.
Oh boy!
To see if they have. They probably don't want to be opening a lot of contempt proceedings these days.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, and as we said before, Timmy was a good boy. He showed up at the inauguration.
Right.
Apple or him, I don't know, gave the $1 million or whatever. And, they've been playing footsie. I mean, it is so interesting. Like, it's such chump change to the likes of Apple to play to Trump's ego and just be on his side. I mean, you could be angry at, an Amazon or an Apple for playing this game, but on the other hand, for a few $1 million, you can.
It isn't expensive, is it? Yeah.
No, I mean, it's the same thing with the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who came over and said, like, we're giving you a second state visit. You can address Parliament. This has never been done before. Totally playing up to his ego.
Yeah. That seems to be the key for anybody playing this game. All right, let's take a little break. We've got a great panel. We've got lots to talk about. And Gary suddenly found out at the beginning of the show that this is going to go on for hours and hours. And so I don't You already knew this, Ian, and I know Ian knows it, and I know Owen knows it. But we will try to make this as painless as possible for you, Gary. I'm so glad.
I'll try not to use the word endless. How about that?
It feels that way often. It feels that way often. But this is your opportunity if you want to get some trail mix, maybe a gallon of water, get a tent, whatever you need to survive the next 2 hours. Yeah. A cup of tea is probably a good idea. Thank you to all of you for being here, and thank you especially to our sponsor for this week, Thinkst Canary. I've got my Thinkst Canary right here. This is the coolest little device. It looks kind of, I don't know, like an external USB drive. Maybe it's got an Ethernet connection, a power connection. Not big, here's my iPhone next to it. It's not much bigger than an iPhone. And yet this thing is perhaps the most important security device in your entire network. This Thinkst Canary is a honeypot that's easy to deploy, a honeypot that will let you know if there's a bad guy in your network. Deploy the Thinkst Canary in minutes. You can make it be anything you want. This one is a Synology NAS, or I can't remember actually. I change it all the time. Maybe it's a Windows server. Might be an IIS server. It could be an SSH server. It could be a Linux box with all the services turned on like a Christmas tree, or just a few judiciously picked services. The Thinkst Canary can also generate files, little tripwires. They call them Canary tokens, that you can scatter around your network. I have, it's funny, I got an email from our IT guy who doubles as our security provider. He said, somebody accessed a file on your Google Drive. I hope that's okay. And I said, yes, it was okay. That was a Canary token that I sent up just for purposes of the show. So it works. So the Canary tokens, I think that one was called employee information. You could put them on your Google Drive. You could put them on local drives. You could put them anywhere you want. If somebody accesses brute forces the fake internal SSH server on this box, or opens one of those juicy looking Canary token files, your Thinkst Canary will immediately alert you that you have a problem. And no false alerts, just the alerts that matter. So you go to your console, you choose a profile for your Thinkst Canary. It just takes seconds. It can even be a SCADA device. It's actually fun to change it around a little bit. Register it with the hosted console. You get monitoring and notifications, by the way, any way you want. Email, Slack. It supports webhooks, syslog, of course. If there's an API, text messages, wherever you want it. Attackers who breach your network, or malicious insiders and other adversaries, will see it and make themselves known because they can't resist them. They have to attack them. It is a wonderful tool. And if you're a big operation, you might have hundreds. A small operation like ours might have a handful, but I'll give you a pricing example. Go to canary.tools/twit. $7,500 a year gets you 5 of them. That's per year. You get your own hosted console. You get upgrades. You get support. You get maintenance. And if you use the offer code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you'll get 10% off the price. And not just for the first year, but as long as you own your canaries. And here's the other thing. If you're at all like, I don't know, really? Do I need this? First of all, yes, you do. And you will love it. But you can always return your Thinkst Canary. They give you a 60-day, 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund. So there's zero risk. I should tell you, though, we've been doing these ads for, I think, 8 years. That refund guarantee has never once been claimed. Once you get the Thinkst Canary, you're going to go, how did I live without it? Visit canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box. The Thinkst Canary. It's reassuring when you don't hear from your canary. You just go, oh, I guess things are okay.
The canary in the coal mine. Yes.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where it came from. You got it immediately. Very good. So now we are still waiting speaking of court cases, Google has lost now 2 court cases, one over search, one over advertising. We're still waiting for the judge to come up with remedies in the search case. Google has now said, there are a couple of proposals coming from the U.S. Department of Justice. One is sell Chrome. We talked about that last week. It's not clear how that could be done. Another would be to open search up to third parties. Sundar Pichai testified in the Remedies hearing that Google, if Google were to share how it does its search with rivals, it would be, quote, a de facto divestiture of the company's search engine. Like by doing this, you would be basically cutting our legs out from under us. And you know what? Maybe they're right. At the same time, it does seem like the perfect remedy. Selling Chrome is not a good remedy. Mozilla just yesterday said if they were to cut off our payments, Google, one of the considered remedies is that Google stop paying Apple, Mozilla, Samsung, all that money to be the default search engine. Mozilla said if they cut off those payments, we're out of business. We rely on those payments. It's going to be hard for the judge to find a reasonable way to remedy this. Yes?
I love the idea of giving access to the data. The one of the legs up, and they have a lot of legs up in AI, is for AI search is they have just so much data because 90% of what percentage of people use Google for search, and that generates all this data. And so training a model, that's such a huge advantage. OpenAI approached Google about, paying a fee for access, and they refused, which of course they did, unless a judge was going to order them. So I think that helps be a great equalizer. One of the advantage you have if you're a wealthy company is the money, but another advantage that any established company has over a startup is the data. A dorm room startup won't have access to the same kind of data that a Google would have. So when I'm thinking about a solution, I'm thinking somewhere around there, thinking ahead to, AI search is the next big battlefield, or it is the battlefield now, and the data access would be kind of an interesting solution.
Pichai said the proposal on data sharing is so far-reaching, I'm quoting, this is from Bloomberg Law, is so far-reaching, so extraordinary, it feels like, quote, de facto divestiture of search.
Well, it's interesting. Bruce Schneier gave a very good keynote on this week, and he was saying basically you have to have trust and integrity in an AI search engine, and I'm not sure anyone trusts Google, to be quite frank.
Yeah, it's funny. Larry Page, when he wrote the very first document, the PageRank document, said trust was paramount, and that's why we can never accept advertising.
Right.
Yeah. How long did that last?
they backed down on that a little bit later. Not so much later.
Well, but who do people trust? OpenAI, which was founded in 2015 to be a counter to Google, specifically to the profit motive. AI is too essential to humanity to leave it to the profit motive. They pretty quickly too drop that mission, that vision, and trust and safety is taking a distant second at OpenAI. I think across the board there's a trust and safety issue. I joke that AI just had really bad timing. That innovation's innovation. It came out when it came out, but when it ended 2022, distrust of big tech. Google, but any of the companies, Meta, etc., was really at an all-time high. And with AI, it's like personal agents, they're going to know our personal information. We have to trust them. AI, it's going to, we're going to lose our apex status as the smartest entity on the planet. So there is a big trust issue. And, it's like that was a big issue in 2023. It was less of an issue in 2024. Now it seems a non-issue. So it's not just Google's problem, the trust and safety issue.
Yeah. And it also is the issue that these court cases have taken so long that Google's already almost out of business compared to OpenAI. I don't don't use Google anymore. I think a lot of people have looked at Google and said, yeah, that's just not doing the job it used to do. I've replaced it with Kagi and Perplexity AI, and frankly prefer them.
But Chrome is still driving a lot of people to Google.
It's like 80 or 90% of the search market. The browser market, right?
And interestingly, OpenAI was one of the parties that said we would gladly take Chrome off of Google.
They wanted to buy. They wanted to buy
for sale. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's fair. Pichai had a little threat as well. Maybe Gary, you should pay attention to this. He said, the Justice Department's proposal to share data is so much broader than the Digital Markets Act, the EU law that requires Google to share some data with rival search engines. He said, but nevertheless, we have slowed down the features we're able to launch in Europe because of the Digital Markets Act. This is the kind of the sub rosa pleading that a lot of these companies are doing. Like, and really the aim is not to the Justice Department or the judge, it's to the president. You would ruin it for a good American company. we would be hurt. Look what the Europeans are doing. You don't want to do that here, do you?
Well, they don't want any solution. So whenever solution comes down, you lost the case. You were declared a monopoly. You're abusing your monopoly power. What's the solution? Like, yeah, you're not going to be happy, but I'm old enough to have lived through the Microsoft trial, and we saw a federal judge say we're going to split this company in two, gave that order, and it never happened. And so,
but that's only because Microsoft went to the bargaining table and got a consent decree and did actually have to give in quite a bit to the government, everything divestiture.
This is exactly what's going to happen again. You go down, you kiss the ring, you pay whatever money is done, and you carry on.
You negotiate some sort.
Exactly.
Microsoft has always said, though, that had a chilling effect on us. I think it's pretty clear that because of that consent decree, companies like Google did emerge as competitors to Microsoft.
I'm all for competitive markets, but at the same time, they've got to be applied equally. And we're seeing, and I guess we're going to be talking about certain acts of later on. But I mean, for goodness sake, competition is what makes tech great, and we should encourage it at opportunities.
Here's what Bloomberg Law says. The government wants Google to divest itself of the Chrome browser, license some search data to competitors, and stop paying for exclusive positions on other apps and devices. That's the Apple, Mozilla, Samsung payments. It has also asked the Judge Mehta extend the ban to Google's AI products, including AI-assisted Gemini, which the government says were aided by the company's illegal monopoly in search. So they want to go after the AI as well. Google says, Your Honor, that would hurt American consumers and the economy and weaken American technological leadership. You wouldn't want to do that, would you? What should the government ask for, though, if it can't ask for that?
Clearly Google needs to hire a lawyer from Brooklyn.
The Utes happen to like Google. I don't know what you're... No, but seriously, what is a remedy that the government could ask for? There's nothing that Google's going to say is okay, obviously.
Stop the payments. I was naive. I had no idea until it came out in the trial that they were paying, $20 billion here and
$20 billion to Apple every year.
I mean, that's a sizable.
That's a big chunk of the services, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, seriously, when you're saying $20 billion to one, I mean, just wrap your head around that for a second.
It's believed that it's hundreds of millions to Mozilla, but that's enough to keep Firefox alive. Without it. See, this is the problem. There's this add-on effect that if you stop the payments, the only credible competitor to the Chrome engine is gone.
Yeah. I mean,
that's not what you want.
Even Edge is built on Chromium right now.
Everything is. Brave, Edge, Vivaldi, Opera. They're all based on the Blink engine, the Chrome.
Yeah,
But it also suggests that the business model of browsers is completely dependent on Google. Like if Safari and Mozilla both depend on Google search payments,
right?
Then you don't have a browser without Google search. That's a good point.
There's not a credible competitor anyway.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
I believe. Am I wrong? That it is a bad thing to have a monoculture of browser engines.
Absolutely. I mean,
gives Google way too much power.
Well, I mean, we saw what happened with IE3. Basically, Microsoft absolutely slammed that market. And to my shame, I did work freelance PR for Microsoft at the time. But it was basically, we have 90% of the market. Why would we bother to develop? And the same thing is going to happen to Chrome. Hopefully, something better will come through.
Yeah. The browser is the dominant way people use their computers nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But that's about to be... Gary, would you agree, disintermediated by AI?
I mean, it's going to take longer than we think, but yes.
Especially agentic AI, right? OpenAI now is proposing that you just let it do all the work.
And I mean, this is a pet peeve of mine. Agentic AI, yes, it's coming, but 2025 is not the year of agentic AI. First off, it's supposed to be like your personal agent, your personal assistant that knows you. These things have a really hard time with memory from session to session to session. So if it doesn't even really know your preferences month in and month out, like, again, it's going to be an amazing thing, just not this year. And this is going to be a much slower transition than I think most people.
So you don't think it's a good idea, for instance, to give your Visa card to an AI and let it do all your shopping for you? You think that might be a bad idea?
Yeah, that was in the news this week.
That was a nasty one. Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream. That's the fantasy. Like, hey, I mean, if the idea of AI is to get rid of this stuff we don't like to do, instead of me spending, half a day on Expedia looking for hotels and paying and buying or gifts for so-and-so, it's just not there. It's just not there yet. I mean, sure. I mean, I guess that's putting the apparatus, it's putting some of the infrastructure in place. But yeah, AI is not good enough. It's to do what is being promised. To me, the year of the agent is about, we've raised hundreds of millions or billions in venture capital, and we have to say something.
We got to monetize this somehow.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Yeah,
Visa's calling it the Visa Intelligent Commerce Initiative.
Oh,
they plan to work with OpenAI, Microsoft, Anthropic, Perplexity, and Mistral, IBM, Samsung, and the payment company Stripe to allow your AI to use your credit card. Letting autonomous AI models control your credit card to make purchases ranging from groceries to clothing on its own based on your budget and preferences. How is this different, though, from me saying to my Amazon Echo, hey, Echo, I need razor blades. She then says, what's your PIN? I say the PIN and she buys them. That's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Another example is Stitch Fix, where instead of you trying to figure out what's going to look good, you just say, send me an outfit. And, Stitch Fix sends you a box. And if you
of course, you can always send them back, right? You don't have to keep them.
And presumably, an AI powered shopping service would have that same guarantee. Hey, if we screwed up, you just return it, which you kind of already have in the world of e-commerce. Like, easy returns are kind of an accepted practice. But I think you would have to have, no questions returned if the AI is buying stuff for you.
Yeah, I mean, the trust issue here is so huge. What was 1994, 1995, the year of the internet, and by the 5 years later, the year 2000, 90% of the deals that were consummated over the internet, someone was writing a check, putting in the mail, and sending it. They didn't, people didn't trust giving, their credit card over the internet. It just takes time. And I imagine AI is the same thing. Yes, in 5 years, whatever, down the road, we're going to have trust. But, people aren't going to trust it for a long time. So, to me, it's Visa taking these, early baby steps.
It does happen pretty quickly, though. I mean, I still have relatives who say you can't use a credit card in the internet. But and I remember, it wasn't that long ago, I'd get calls on the radio show. Is it safe to buy stuff on the internet? And I would tell people it's safer than giving your credit card to a waiter and he disappears to the back.
Yeah.
And that happened within a matter of a few years. People kind of, except for my relatives, got used to it. And now, I mean, does anybody say, I'm not going to use a credit card online?
Well, no, I mean, you have an internet credit card, one with a strictly limited credit limit that you use just online, and the rest of it.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just give them my regular Visa card.
Oh, I've done that for almost a quarter century.
Yeah, good on you.
You guys are the two that I was talking about.
With the paranoid.
But
as Silicon Valley goes, only the paranoid survive. It's one of those things.
And the irony is that credit card almost never gets
stolen.
Yeah,
almost never gets stolen, canceled. Right. And so all of my online payments are, knock on wood, like they're happening uninterrupted. Meanwhile, the card that I use in physical stores,
Actually, I'm being a little facetious because I use a company called Privacy, which is a longtime sponsor. They're not anymore, but they were for a long time. And they give you individual card numbers linked to the merchant so that only the merchant after the first purchase can continue to use that card. And they also give you one-time cards. That used to be a thing. What happened? All the credit card companies used to do that one-off. Here's a one-time only credit card number, and as far as I can tell, nobody does it. Maybe it was
I think Citibank.
Citibank. I think Discovery might still do it, but it must be an expensive thing.
I mean, it does freak me out when people take your credit card and take it away from you, and it's like you could be running that through a skimmer right now.
Oh yeah. Well, every time you go to a gas station, you could be running it through a skimmer.
No, you always toggle, even at ATMs, you always toggle the thing just to see if it's loose.
Really? You shake it a little bit?
Yeah, just to see if it's loose. I mean, maybe
we've had skimmers here in Petaluma, little old Petaluma, on the gas. Many gas pumps have had skimmers on them. That's very common.
Leo, you're absolutely right. It's much safer over the internet. I've literally had a waiter, give a credit card. I was a little tipsy at a Sunday brunch, champagne brunch, and next thing I know, there's hundreds and hundreds of dollars of charges. So
whoever thought bottomless Bellinis was a good idea? Really, endless mimosas. That is a terrible idea. Well, but nowadays, I don't know. More and more, I'm seeing the waiters come to your table, right, with the thing, and you never give them your card. Is that becoming more common? I don't know. I see that a lot in Petaluma.
It's very common in the UK.
Is it? Europe, they've done it for years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Chip and pin.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. America has this chip and signature thing, and it's just like nobody looks at the signature. I could write Donald Duck on there, and they'd still pass the bill.
I was selling my son's car. He left to go to New York to open his restaurant, and he left the Tesla for me. Thank you. And I had to get a power of attorney to sell his car. And I was looking at his signature, and I mean, he's 30 years old, but obviously they never taught calligraphy or even handwriting in school because his signature is like this. It's worse than Donald Trump's. It's like this. So, I mean, if I'd had to, I could have easily duplicated his scribble.
I say bad parenting there, but
is that bad parenting? Okay, all right. Well, you have a 13-year-old. Wait till your son's 30 years old, then you tell me. Okay.
Guilty secret time. I write my wife's name on birthday cards to my family if she doesn't have time to sign them. So
they can't tell. Nobody
they can't tell.
Actually, I remember reading a handwriting expert saying, "Bad handwriting is harder to forge than good handwriting."
Well, this is interesting from the spam perspective because now we've got Gen AI coming on spam. They're doing all the grammar and syntax exactly
you can't tell anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So now, you're looking for mistakes as a sign of human beings rather than,
I got a perfect phishing email yesterday. I have all my own domains like leoville.com. So there's no administrator. And I got an email from leoville.com from, admin at leoville.com. Your password is expired. You need to renew it. Everything was perfect. Not only the grammar, but even the from address. I had to go deep into the headers to figure out where it came from. I knew there was no way it was going to phish me because I own the site. There's no administrator. I am the administrator. I got it for not just one site, but for a half a dozen of my sites, all of which, you go to ICANN or Who Is and figure out what sites are who and what the administrator email address is. It's an easy phishing scam. So don't fall for it, kids. But I mean, it wasn't obvious. They buried it. I mean, it was well crafted.
No, I mean, this is the point. You're smart and you check it back. But if the average person clicks on a link and sees, Microsoft.support spelled slightly wrong, whatever, the rest of it, they're going to get caught.
They're very good now.
Yeah. No, welcome to the future. AI means that, phishing, et cetera, all these scams, they're just much better. I mean, you're right. What you're now looking for is the humanness of it. Like there might have been, one little tiny mistake. If it's too perfect, you need to be suspicious.
Well, as we get older and as we get more single and difficult to get dates and we can't go to those, Tinder apps, the romance scams are taking over. And I'm going to tell you something to watch out for when you get to be my age with romance scams just a bit. Gary Rivlin's here. His new book, by the way, excellent. AI Valley. It's kind of a history of AI, which is nice, up to the present. And we really enjoyed your conversation on intelligent machines. You can go back, folks, a couple of weeks and find that. And I thought, Gary's so smart. We got to get him on Twit. So it's nice to have you And you've been touring around it, right? You've been doing readings and stuff.
Yeah, I was just in DC this week. I did a podcast with Newt Gingrich.
What? Good. What? He's still alive? Okay.
Actually, and then he went to Alabama for some Trump event. And
how did you keep from throwing up in your mouth? I don't.
No, I mean, I'll give him credit. Like, I remember I was working for the Industry Standard in the late 90s, 2000, and, he had been kicked out as Speaker of the House at this point, but, he came in to talk about the internet, and it was really interesting. So a group of us spoke. I was with him and I was there. Like, half the stuff that came out of his mouth was brilliant, and the other half was just insane and ridiculous, which is sort of, Newt Gingrich's thing. He just talks so fast, and good ideas come and awful ideas come out. But he's always been interested in tech. So, we didn't talk the current state of politics and what we both think of Mr. Trump. We talked AI. It was actually fun. I had a good.
He's a smart fellow. I mean, there's no question. He was the Contract with America guy, right? And in some ways, you could say that was where Trumpism began, was with Newt Gingrich.
Well, there's an entire book out saying that essentially, Gingrich in the 90s kind of broke U.S. politics. That kind of this idea that it's a death match between one side and the other, and there's no compromise, and to do any compromise is to sell out your position. That was Gingrich in the 90s.
Well, but you could be smart and be wrong as well. Right?
I mean, honestly, Gingrich did co-authored a very good book on the effects of a nuclear weapon exploding and doing electronic disruption on pretty much every device. So, I mean, weird bloke, but had some good ideas.
What was his training? Was he a physicist or a scientist? Or?
He was a teacher. No, he was a professor and economist. I can't remember what his historian. He was a historian. So he taught in Georgia before he became an elected official.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I looked up and wrote a couple of articles about electromagnetic pulse disruption, and the book they wrote actually was probably pretty accurate. If you do a full disruption over the US, you're going to lose 90% of the population within 10 years. It's interesting reading.
Can I tell my favorite? Can I tell my favorite Newt Gingrich story? I know we're ostensibly on.
Yes.
We were supposed to go to a break, but this is much more interesting. Go ahead.
Remedies for Google. So somehow we're on Leo's dating, and now I'm going to tell my Newt Gingrich story.
Yes.
But it's I'm
happily married, by the way. I am not dating. I was using myself as an example, but I am not dating. We just want to make that clear. Okay.
Your wife will be disappointed to hear this, yes. But it's so I had a book, The Plot to Get Bill Gates, came out in '99, and it was translated into Chinese, and I heard from the translator. I get this email. It was, who or what is a Newt Gingrich? Which, well, this is for fun to do that. I don't know. What is a Newt Gingrich?
Or what?
I can't really explain
we want to get exactly the right pronoun here.
It does sound like a Harry Potter character, but
or a newt. It's an animal. It's a newt. What is it? Why'd you capitalize the N?
I'm sure he's not named after the whatever. Is it a lizard? I don't know. Anyway, yes, Gary has many books, including The Plot to Get Bill Gates. AI Valley is the latest, and you can find out more at GaryRivlin.com, GaryRivlin. It is I really enjoyed it. It was a really great book. So
thank you.
Highly recommended if you want to kind of catch up on how did we get here? It's a good question. Also with us, the wonderful Owen Thomas from San Francisco Business Times. Always great to see you. It's fun. We get to see the seasons change through the office windows. In the winter, it was bare and cold looking. Now it's starting to be spring in San Francisco.
Springtime in San Francisco.
The sun is coming out. And also, we never know what the weather's like because Ian Thompson lives deep within his lair, his book-lined lair.
Cave. Yes.
It's great to have you as well. Our show today brought to you by our good friends at OutSystems. You've heard the old conundrum. Every business has to go through it. Build versus buy. Well, I've got a third way for you. OutSystems, the leading AI-powered application and agent development platform. For more than 20 years, the mission of OutSystems has been to give every company the power to innovate through software. This build or buy thing is tough. We went through it ourselves. Typically you'd have two choices. You could buy an off-the-shelf, SaaS product, gets you up to speed fast, but you lose flexibility, you lose differentiation because you're using the same software everybody else is. Or you can build your own custom software at great expense and a loss of time. That's what we ended up doing, and we deeply regret it, by the way. We had an intern write our sales system, and it crashes all the time, and he's gone. He doesn't maintain it. It's crazy. So it always seems like a tough choice, build versus buy. But now there's a third way, AI forging the way for a third path. It's the fusion of AI, low code, which has been around for a while, DevSecOps, automation, into a single development platform. Your teams can now build custom applications with AI agents as easily as buying generic sameware. And OutSystems does it right. They build in flexibility, security, scalability. It all comes standard. With AI-powered low-code, teams can build custom, future-proof applications at the speed of buying. With fully automated architecture, security, integration, data flows are built in. You've got a complete, very granular permission structure. It's exactly what you need. OutSystems is the last platform you need to buy because you can now use it to build anything and continue to customize and extend your core systems. Build your future with OutSystems. This is such a great idea. Visit outsystems.com/twit to learn more. That's outsystems.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of This Week in Tech. All right. I was going to talk about real-time deepfake frauds. So this is a great story from 404, Joseph Cox. By the way, with the loss of the Daily Dot, we were talking about this before the show. I think you started it. You were a first executive editor, right, Owen? And of course,
that's right.
The new owners of one of the best internet publications have decided to go all AI and just fire everybody.
Because that's worked really well for Sports Illustrated and other publications.
Seems like a bad idea, but hey, on the other side, it is cheap.
Well, no, I'm sorry. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. It's as simple as that. It's a really stupid idea because if you're looking for journalism, then you go to humans. If you're looking for a quick a quick estimate of what the news was, we might be wrong. We call it hallucination, but we're actually wrong. Then you go for AI. It's crushing.
404 is a really good example. A bunch of people who were at the Defector, right? Samantha Cole, Joseph Cox, Jason Keebler, who we've had on the show.
It was The Verge, yeah.
Oh, they were at The Verge? Okay.
Sorry, no, not The Verge.
Defector,
Vice.
Weren't they?
No, they Joe Cox came from Vice.
That's right.
A bunch of
That's right. He was Motherboard. That's right. Yeah. Keebler was at Motherboard for years. Sam Cole, Joseph Cox, Manuel Myberg. Anyway, very talented journalists. And they said, well, why don't we just do it ourselves? Yeah. And 404 was born. And I really want to give them credit. People should sign up for their newsletters. They should pay for, I don't know if they have a subscription thing. They have a podcast.
They do. I shouldn't be pushing this because they're a competitor, but at the same time, I respect Joe. I want to support them because this honestly is the future. In many ways, this is the future of online news gathering. Sad to say, is kind of fund it yourself. Anyway, great story. Joseph Cox wrote this one. The age of the real-time deepfake fraud is here, and he did a lot of good legwork on this. Went to a Telegram group. This is a video from Telegram. It was shared on Telegram. He's redacted it to take the picture of the nice older woman out. She's on the right there. The fraudster is in the upper left-hand corner, and he's using real-time software to change his look to a handsome, gray-bearded old guy talking to this lady, saying how beautiful she is, and
way more gorgeous and more beautiful than you were on the photo you sent me.
And she's loving it. She's eating it up. Warn your elders, your friends, and your family, because it's gotten very easy, apparently, to do these real-time deep fakes. He talks about a group called Yahoo Boys, fraudsters typically based in Nigeria. They traditionally use Yahoo emails as part of their scams. They've now broadened into all manner of schemes, Joseph writes. Before we couldn't do some things, now we can do them, including generate in real time pictures of people who are fake.
Remember, it was just princes. That's all we had to do.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. Take the Prince scam, fast forward it into the age of AI.
Yeah.
If you were wondering who still has Yahoo emails in this day and age, now you know.
Now you know.
I was thinking the same thing.
Same thing with celebrities. Deep fakes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Mike Tyson. These aren't real. They were endorsing products that they didn't know anything about. I don't know if there's a whole lot you can do, frankly.
Well, I mean, sorry, after you.
No, I mean, in 2023, Joe Rogan was seemingly endorsing something he didn't. Tom Hanks. I mean, the surprise for me with deepfakes is I was convinced it was going to turn upside down the 2020 election. I was convinced it was going to turn upside down the 2024 election. I guess now we could say it's finally here, although that makes it sound like I'm wishing for it. But, it's just this idea that a tool for good is a tool for bad. AI can do extraordinary things, but it's a really powerful tool for bad guys as well as people who mean well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was talking to security folk at the conference this week, and they're kind of like, well, yeah, you can do it, but it's really not economically viable unless you've got a good revenue stream from it.
Guess what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
you want to make money, the best thing to do is to con older people.
Well, honestly, younger people are quite, adept at being conned as well.
I suppose that's true.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's really come through is that, we have the first internet generation, people who were born with the internet and they trust it. And until you get verification, then trust is going to go in a very bad way. I can't help feeling.
If you worry about that kind of thing, you might have been encouraged by Melania Trump's Take It Down Act. The idea was good, which is to criminalize deep fakes used as revenge porn, illegal content, and make it possible to get it down quickly, giving social networks 48 hours to remove it. Well, Congress has passed it. Boy, did they pass it by a vast majority. I think the Senate was 98-2. Congress was similar. And it's on the president's desk right now. To my knowledge, he has not yet signed it. His Sharpie is busy elsewhere, but he has said he will sign it. Worse, he said, I like this law. I'm going to use it myself because no one's been treated worse on the internet than I have.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could rant about this for hours, but this is Sopa Pippa all over again. And the Democrats have basically voted in the very tool that is going to kill them. It's ridiculous.
EFF says, despite major flaws, it's passed. I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't look too deeply or you don't consider too deeply the unintended consequences, it seems like a perfectly sensible law. Here's what the EFF says is problematic. 48 hours. That's such a quick turnaround time. I think about, for instance, we run a Twit forum at twit.community. We run a Mastodon instance at twit.social. I think about that. If somebody were to put something up on the Mastodon site, even if it came from somebody else's Mastodon site, and there were then a complaint, I would have 48 hours to take it down. If I didn't check that means I have to check every day now for those kinds of complaints.
But I mean, this is why Facebook and Google are in such support of this, because it's like, hey, yeah, we can do
it.
Our competitors can't. So, hey, this is great for us.
So why is it a problem, though? Look, I want to take down as quickly as possible revenge porn or deep fakes.
Absolutely.
That's fine. Why is it a problem?
Well, because, if you're a small website, you've got to be monitoring your forums the entire time.
Plus,
now,
48 hours doesn't give me a lot of time to verify
exactly
that complaint, right? Is
exactly.
it really, what's going on?
You have to make a judgment. I mean, for example,
well, I'm just going to take everything down. If I get a complaint, it's going down immediately. I'm not going to take a chance, right?
Sorry.
Oh, and I just wanted to say it is always marginalized communities like the LGBTQIA community whose content is like the first to be targeted,
right?
Under regimes.
It is a very broad definition of what should be taken down, right? Potentially any images involving intimate. What is intimate? I don't know. Intimate or sexual content. It's not a very narrow definition. There are no safeguards against frivolous or bad faith takedown requests, as there are with the DMCA. We've seen the DMCA horribly misused.
Absolutely.
And it has remedies.
Well, I think specifically of the meme of Trump and Putin kissing each other, which was a form of internet protest against Trump
and fair use, right? Yeah. Completely legal.
Yeah, no, I mean clearly commentary on
right.
their relationship, but because of the nature of that meme, it could be taken down as arguably intimate. Trump could say it's revenge porn.
And the Trump administration, no doubt, Trump sort of promised when he spoke about this act.
He says, I'm going to use it.
And, we see what happens. He does a threat, and lots of law firms and tech companies, etc., they buckle down. Yeah.
It has been interesting to see the universities going against him. But yeah, I mean, he said himself, I'm going to use this. Right. And it's just, it baffles the mind that this...
Mike Masnick on Tech Dirt says it is blatantly unconstitutional.
Yeah. I mean,
it violates the First Amendment.
I mean, Masnick is one of the few writers on the internet that I will read and, disagree with him 10% of the time, but he's spot on this. This is going to be actively disturbing. This is Citizens United for journalism.
So just to be clear.
I mean, the question I had.
Go ahead. No, please, Gary.
I mean, I've done no research on this. It's not something I've written about, but on paper, I think we all agree this is a really good idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
take down non-consensual. Yeah.
But where did it go off the rail? I mean, Ted Cruz was the main sponsor, so I guess I'm answering by saying just that. But
it was very bipartisan. I mean, so was Amy Klobuchar. I mean, it was very bipartisan.
Where did it go off the rails? It just made so much sense when I heard it. It's like when I first read the headline, it's so good. That's a sensible law. A bipartisan Congress can do something that makes sense. But then you read the fine print and you realize, this is a terrible idea. I'm just wondering who got involved. Well, I mean, maybe they came up during this conversation, Google and Meta say hey, this is great. We've got the infrastructure. We can handle this. Our competitors and would-be competitors cannot handle this. But I'm really curious how this ended up, kind of snatching, defeat from the jaws of victory. What's the expression? It seemed like a really good idea. And
So here's what Masnick says. The bill's vague standards combined with harsh criminal penalties create a perfect storm for censorship and abuse. He says, we already have systems to handle non-consensual intimate imagery online. There's NCMEC's Take It Down system, which we've talked about before. StopNCII.org has virtually every major platform from Meta to TikTok to Pornhub participating in coordinated removal efforts. He says these systems work because they're precise, transparent, and focused on the actual problem. But apparently working solutions weren't exciting enough for Congress. Instead of building on these proven approaches, they've decided to create an entirely new system that somehow managed to be both weaker at addressing the real problem and more dangerous for everyone else.
Well, no, it's exactly the same problem that we have with Section 230. It sounds like a great idea. Get rid of it, make everyone accountable. And in practice, it's an absolute nightmare. And I think it's the same with Take It Down. This is going to be weaponized and not in a good way.
Yeah. Well, the very fact that Donald Trump at the State of the Union address said, I'm going to use it, kind of tells you something. Unless there's a lot of non-consensual intimate imagery of Donald Trump floating around, maybe there is.
Okay, this weekend the guy has said that he's not sure if it's his job to uphold the Constitution.
Right.
So,
he's unclear.
Yeah. Let's be frank about this.
He was asleep during the oath of office, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. He's an older man. I don't blame him.
We're talking someone a few gargoyles short of the full cathedral, but yes.
Anyway, it could be we're worried about nothing, that this won't, materialize as a censorship tool. I think there is some legitimate concern that it will. 98-2 in the Senate, 409-2 in the House.
I can't believe the Democrats voted it in on that way. It's just, they're cutting their own throats. They really are. This is going to be used as a censorship tool, as the EFF has said.
It's unfortunate because the way they get votes on things like this is say, well, it would be a shame if your name were associated with the inability to take down something so horrendous as, whatever. You clothe it in the garb of, a completely sensible plan to protect young women.
Well, it's the four horsemen of the infocopolis.
It's not easy to say. The four horsemen of the infocopolis.
So you've got organized crime, drug dealers, child abusers, and
women.
Well, actually, pretty much that's it.
Yeah.
So,
think of the children. Think of the children. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Maybe it's a tempest in a teapot and nothing bad's going to happen. It is not yet the law, but it will be soon.
Right.
Yeah.
It will be very soon. All right. Well, as long as we've offended all of our Republican listeners, let's keep going. White House was very upset with Amazon. There was a report since denied that Amazon was going to itemize the cost of tariffs in anything you purchased on Amazon. The White House, this was Punchbowl News reported this, I think inaccurately. The White House called it a hostile and political act, to which Jeff Bezos immediately apologized, said, we weren't going to do it. We're never going to do it. It's not going to happen. Don't worry. I think it's a great idea. We know that auto dealerships plan to put a line saying tariff costs on car stickers, or at least they've said that they would like to do that.
Yeah.
Transparency is always a good idea.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah.
Empower your consumers, know what's going on.
It's kind of telling that the White House says, no, we don't want anybody to know how much those tariffs are going to cost. It'll be obvious when the cost of your iPhone goes to $3,000. I think that'll become pretty clear. Kickstarter says we're going to start allowing Kickstarter projects to ask for more money. They have a new tool. I don't think the White House is going to like this, called the Tariff Manager tool, which will let Kickstarter, because a lot of Kickstarter stuff, let's face it, is drop shipped from China, right? Creators will now be able to charge an extra fee after the campaign ends. This is, by the way, 404 Media doing some good reporting once again, so that the Kickstarter projects can add charges to the fully funded projects because of tariffs.
See, this makes me think this is going to go badly wrong for consumers, and we're going to see a lot of bogus tariff fees. Where maybe it's imported from a low cost country, but they slap on a big.
It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, an enhanced profit opportunity.
It reminds me of how every restaurant in San Francisco, still charge.
They have a little surcharge on there.
Yeah, tries to get away with charging an SF mandate charge.
Right. Yeah, the health surcharge.
Yeah, based on basically a local healthcare law that was completely outmoded by the Affordable Care Act. Doesn't really,
Oh, that's funny.
So it's a bogus. Yeah, there's a small set of restaurants that might be paying a little more in healthcare. Really, under the ACA, most of those businesses would be paying the exact same.
Oh, interesting. But they've done that also with new minimum wage costs, and every restaurant in town, not even in San Francisco, has a little, an extra 6% added to cover the cost of living.
The thing that really grips my muffin is when you go to a self-service checkout at the supermarket and they're asking, "Would you like to tip 15%?" It's like, for what?
The robot
done all the work.
Doesn't the robot deserve a little extra? Come on, don't be such a cheapskate, Ian.
Mine is the resort fee. Like,
I hate that resort.
Las Vegas is the worst for that.
Now, and to his credit, President Biden did, under the FTC and Lena Khan under President Biden did do something about those extra fees, right? But did that get overruled by the new administration? Is that still?
Well, they gutted the CFPB, which would have been
enforcing that.
Most of this. So get ready for more overdraft fees from banks. I think these tariff surcharges are going to be in the same category of junk fees, and enforcement of consumer protections does not seem to be a priority in this administration.
Microsoft is raising the price of Xboxes from $599 to from $499 to $699. That's the Xbox X. The Series S is being marked up $80. This to account for tariffs.
But they're also doing it internationally. They're spreading the cost around.
Oh yeah. So also in the UK, Europe, and Australia, which don't have 145%.
Exactly. Everyone else gets screwed. It's just like,
wow.
I mean, as Owen said, this is the chance to raise profit margins, raise prices, and blame it on Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And not calling it a tariff surcharge is clearly the political way to go. Microsoft is being smart here.
Right.
The question is,
they call in their quarterly result, Amy Hood, their CFO, said it's tariff uncertainty. That's all.
Oh yeah, right. Nothing at all to do with padding profit margins.
We're uncertain. We don't know. We don't know what's going. Actually, UPS, the United Parcel Service, says they're going to cut 20,000 jobs. Now that's partly because Amazon is reducing their deal with them, right? But I have to also think it's because of a reduced number of packages being shipped.
Well, when you go from 30 Christmas presents to 2 Christmas presents, whatever Trump's,
you only need $2. What do you need more than $2 for?
Yeah, that's
crying out loud.
Says the bloke with a picture of his kids sitting on a pet lion.
But there's only one lion. Now, come on.
Well, no, but this is serious because I live in the Bay Area and I sail in the Bay, and the amount of cargo ships in Oakland at the moment is pretty much zero.
Can you see? You can actually see it.
I'm used to 6 to 8 ships being docked in the Southern Bay, and there's nothing there. And I've got friends in Seattle. There's nothing there. There's a supply shock coming, and it's not going to be good. If you haven't bought your tech now, you're too late.
Port of Los Angeles says shipping volume is going to go down 35% this week.
Yeah. Imagine if you're a trucker and that comes through, or if you're a longshoreman.
Right.
And LA is where the goods from Asia come in. Oakland is where a lot of the the shipments go out, including Tesla. Tesla cars from the Fremont factory. The Port of Oakland is a natural.
So it's really two-way, right? Because China's also upped their tariffs. We're in a trade war.
Wine from Napa, agricultural products from the Central Valley. They're all getting slapped with tariffs on the other side. Yeah. So it's not like we're imposing tariffs and the rest of the world is just sitting back and taking it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, Tesla got out this week because they're now 85% domestically produced, but the rest of the car industry at the moment is completely up the spout because, they take their parts in from everywhere around the world.
Uncertainty is the right word because it could very well be that a call to the White House next week will change everything. It's just unknown, but uncertainty is not good for business, right? I mean, worse is the certainty that you're going to have to pay 145%. But the next worse is I don't know what I'm going to have to pay.
But you can't make long-term investment decisions based on someone in the White House deciding, okay, they're my friends now, they're my enemies now. Right. It's not fundamental to good confidence.
I saw a quote from a European politician to the effect of, we can't make our decisions based on the whims of voters in Wisconsin every 4 years.
Yeah.
That's the long-term problem, right? Is it's not going to end in 4 years. It's a problem. The United States itself is a problem.
Well, there's also the problem that we've created a system where if you have access, if you're Tim Cook representing Apple, and you could get exempted, and it's just like, it's kind of up for bids. It's like, what are you going to do for me? White House says, if we're going to do something for you, that's a different kind of uncertainty. It's a rigged system. It's the kind of thing we don't want. We want a fair system, but instead it's like, we'll go to the White House and we'll give money. We have given money, so we'll have access. We could get our exemption. It's not just cars either. I mean, it seems everything we make in this country is, some parts are from overseas. I was listening to reports about, the toy industry and stuff for, babies, carriages and that kind of stuff. I remember a few years back, there was kind of a temporary baby formula shortage and people freaked out. I'm just like trying to anticipate, in the fall, coming into the holiday season, kind of the freak out. Because I'm imagining, unless something radical changes in the next month or two, that is what we're looking at. I have no idea how that's going to play out, but I just can't imagine it's going to be pretty, because people are going to be really, really upset. We in America, we like our stuff. We like our full shelves. We want our $30, or at least we want the right to buy $30 if we want to buy $30.
I'm seeing over your shoulder, your left shoulder, Gary, a book you wrote in 2011 about who does benefit for this. It's called Broke USA. There's a poverty industry in the United States.
Yeah, I was just fascinated. This is after 2008, the subprime meltdown, that, it's like the start of it, or early on in the subprime abuse, it was poor people, and banks were getting rich off poor people. So I had this idea, like, I was fascinated, payday lenders, check cashers, pawnbrokers, etc. These businesses, that their business model is to get rich off people with no money, which makes no sense. But there was back then, 5 or 6 payday lending companies that were publicly traded with multiple billions of dollars in revenue. In fact, there's a funny thing that a banker wants 100 clients with at least $1 million. A payday lender wants 1 million clients, customers, none of whom have $100.
Kind of amounts to the same thing in the long run, doesn't it?
Well,
and of course, who shut all of those down? The CFPB. And who shut down the CPFP? So I have a feeling this might be back. You might want to revise and reissue Broke USA.
I mean, there's so many ways we could talk about Elon Musk's, conflicts of interest. But, one of the first things he did, I put up a tweet, something like delete CFPB, get rid of the CFPB, and, gutted it. That was one of the first things DOGE did. And guess what? XAI, whatever he's calling it, wants to get into financial services.
Yeah.
Who stands in the way? And, and in fact, the CFPB had a number of cases. There was a lot of complaints to the CFPB about Tesla. And, so he was
as were a lot of complaints at the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration. And, look, what just got cut by DOGE is the Autonomous Vehicle Division of NHTSA.
No, I interviewed someone about this exactly. This is Dan O'Dowd, the billionaire who's got a grudge against Tesla, but he's absolutely right. Full system driving doesn't work. So they're basically gutting the regulatory agencies and saying, yeah, fine, make it go.
We know it doesn't work, but we still want to do it. Why should you? Well, I can understand the kind of the philosophy, the anti-regulatory philosophy.
Yeah, but are you going to entrust your life to a system without
That's
LiDAR?
The problem.
Without LiDAR.
There are some regulations we need. Yeah. Food and drug regulations, safe driving regulations, seatbelts.
Yeah.
DOGE, according to the Verge, Elon Musk's DOGE ties could get him out of $2 billion in potential liability. It's not just Tesla, it's SpaceX, it's Neuralink, $2.37 billion. This is from a Senate report. Of course, from the Democrats, but, so take it with a grain of salt. Democratic staff for the Senate Homeland Security Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations probing the impact of Musk's relationship with Trump and the creation of DOGE. DOGE may not have saved as much as they promised. He promised, what, $2 trillion? We're saving maybe $100 billion. But what we are saving is a lot of money for Elon Musk's companies.
Well, I mean, NASA. Look at the NASA budget this week. It's been cut 24%, and they're like, "Okay, well, we're just going to have commercial companies do this now." Which commercial companies?
Guess which?
Rural broadband. So I think the Biden administration put $42 billion into rural broadband for people who don't have access. That's been paused, and now they're saying, why don't we use Starlink? Who owns Starlink? I forget. Kind of thing. I mean, there's some logic there, right? It's easier to use, wireless and, dig trenches and do broadband, but it's really expensive. I don't use Starlink.
And furthermore, once you put in the fiber, it's there for 100 years. Elon, you're going to continue to pay month by month, and the price is not set by anybody but Elon.
And if you're a Ukrainian soldier, then it might be turned off with
any
win.
price. Yeah. Trump is also cutting almost $500 million from the CISA budget, and this is spite. This is spite. CISA's director in 2020, Chris Krebs, was asked about the election that Trump, of course, said was stolen. Krebs famously said it was the most reliable election?
Fairest
election ever. Yeah. Everything worked perfectly well. CISA did its job. And the election results are real. Of course, the president immediately fired Krebs and now has not only written a letter to Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice saying we need to investigate this guy. He just, total spite, revoked his global entry.
It's pathetic.
It's just pure spite. And honestly, I believe cutting $500 million from the CISA budget, which is, by the way, only $3 billion, comes not because this is waste and fraud or whatever, but just as a way of saying, spite. It's spite.
But it's also insane.
It's a mistake.
We need to fortify our cyber defenses.
Yes.
We need to do risk assessment. Have you noticed that China, Russia, North Korea, there's a few countries out there that are trying to break into our systems and mess us up, or our governments. And, it just, I don't understand. I mean, I do because we're explaining it. It's spite. Yeah. No, it's so short-sighted. It's so short-sighted.
This is in the president's new budget. It says the CISA programs are a hub of, quote, the censorship industrial complex to violate the First Amendment, target Americans for protected speech, and target the president. I mean, it's admittedly because they didn't like what they said in 2020.
But it's totally part. I mean, they even got rid of the volunteer council. Now, it had its faults because this was basically big tech companies advising CISA about how to deal with security threats. But these were volunteers. And they're just like, yeah, out with you. Oh, I spoke to somebody this week and they sat down with CISA and all the old guard are gone. You've got a lot of very young, enthusiastic people, but a lot of the knowledge has been lost, and it's not going to work out well for America.
Yeah. Well, DOGE has another proposal. We'll talk about it in just a moment. We're going to take a break. Gary Rivlin is here. It's great to have you, Gary, author of AI Valley, GaryRivlin.com, Ian Thompson from the Register.com. It's always a pleasure learning new Britishisms all the time from Ian. I think you're starting to make some up. I don't want to say anything, but I think you're starting to make a few.
I mean, I haven't said wanker or session. Oh,
and also Owen Thomas from the San Francisco Business Times. Great to have all of you here. Our show today brought to you by Drata. If you're leading risk and compliance at your company, you're probably wearing 10 hats at once, managing security risks, compliance demands, budget constraints, all while trying not to be seen as the roadblock that slows the business down. But GRC isn't just about checking boxes. It's a revenue driver. It's good for you. It builds trust, accelerates deals, strengthens security. That's why modern GRC leaders turn to Drata, a trust management platform that automates tedious tasks so you can focus on reducing risk and scaling your program. With Drata, you can automate security questionnaires, evidence collection, and compliance tracking. You can stay audit ready with real-time monitoring, simplify security reviews with Drata's Trust Center and AI-powered questionnaire assistance. Instead of spending hours Proving trust, build it faster with Drata. Ready to modernize your GRC program. Visit drata.com/weekintech to learn more. Again, drata.com/weekintech. Know this, just weekintech. Drata.com/weekintech to learn more. We thank Drata so much for supporting This Week in Tech. Well, here's another. I'll give you one more story from Mike Masnick's Tech Dirt. And this one actually gets me. I'm going to turn beet red. The FTC is going after Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Or FCC. It's Brendan Carr, isn't it? Saying that Wikipedia's editors are biased and spreading disinformation. Oh no, wait a minute. It's Ed Martin. That's who it is. Well, I don't worry so much about him. The DC U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, who is a problematic person in many other respects, is now investigating Wikipedia for I don't know what disinformation. He sent a letter to. It has come to my attention that the Wikimedia Foundation, through its wholly owned subsidiary Wikipedia, is allowing foreign actors to manipulate information and spread propaganda to the American people.
What, are we talking Hugh Grant here? Or
Yeah, he's apparently editing Wikipedia. What's the response to this, besides the fact that this is exactly what the First Amendment prohibits, which is government intervention in speech?
Well, have you ever read the conservative version of Wikipedia called Conservapedia? No. Seriously, check it out. It's absolutely hilarious.
Martin demands to know about Wikipedia's editorial process, how it handles trust and safety. I mean, this is a real threat to one of the best things that ever happened to the internet.
Yeah, Wikipedia is a gift to the world, but this weaponization is going on across the board. I mean, we could talk about Brendan Carr, the FTC, and taking on media outlets with threatening to the government's threatening to take away their licenses. NBC, etc., CBS, for doing their job. Like, I don't like Fox News. I'll complain about Fox News, but I don't think their license should be.
They shouldn't be censored. Yes.
Yeah, but so it's across the board. It's Wikipedia.
And by the way, if you want to go after somebody for disinformation, X.com is full of bots representing China, Russia, North Korea, every possible Saudi Arabia, Iran, every possible dictatorship. Nobody's saying anything about X.
I mean, I wonder if the Wikipedia thing is, let's go look at Donald Trump's write-up and, how
let's
did they
fix
handle...
that.
Well, no, what they say about the 2020 election, Trump didn't like it. So now Wikipedia is on the enemies list.
Yeah.
And because Wikimedia Foundation is a nonprofit, I believe they're also bringing the tax status into the conversation, which they're also trying to do with
By the way, speaking of illegal, that is blatantly illegal for the executive branch to then tell the IRS, revoke Harvard's tax status. Revoke.
It's specifically in the tax code that the rest of the executive branch cannot talk to the IRS about.
It's blatantly illegal.
Let's be frank here. We've gone past it's blatantly illegal.
Oh, I guess you're right.
It's basically
that's a foolish objection, isn't it?
We're going to do what we're going to do, and you're going to have to live with it. And it's a very disturbing situation, I have to say. But we're in a post-truth and legal justification environment at the moment.
Carl Bodie writing for The Verge. Brendan Carr's FCC is an anti-consumer rights trampling harassment machine.
He's done a massive reverse ferret from about 4 years ago where he was all for freedom of speech and the rest of it. And now it's like, actually, no, I think we need to bring these people to heel.
It's always been about freedom of speech for me, not for thee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As long as you're saying something we like, you have freedom of speech.
Yeah. I mean, try discussing cisgender on X and see how far that gets you.
Trump sued CBS for what, $20 billion, saying he didn't like the edit they did of Kamala Harris's interview on 60 Minutes. Probably that. I mean, there's no legal merit to it. It is blatantly illegal. But because CBS is trying to merge right now, an $8 billion merger with Skydance, they have some leverage. And I think experts think it's likely that CBS will settle.
No, look at Zuckerberg, and he said, he wrote a check for $25 million to Trump individually. It's like it's the most blatant I would call it the most blatant payoff you could imagine, but then we could talk about others that are just as blatant as crypto. The Trump family's crypto thing, like, let's take $75 million to someone. It's just it really is a payoff.
Yeah,
I mean I used to get. Okay, I came to the US in 2008, and even then it was kind of like, you've legalized bribery and called it campaign contributions. But at the current state, this is third world stuff. It really is. And
I would expect a court would probably throw out the Trump's lawsuit against CBS, but it doesn't matter if they've got leverage through the merger. Right. Exactly. If they can threaten the merger, then it doesn't really matter what the courts might say if there is an illegality.
And it's a rational decision. I was talking about it before. If I could write a check for a few $1 million and make a big problem go away, it's worth it.
Right. It
didn't quite work for Zuckerberg. He wrote his $25 million check and $1 million or whatever it was for the inauguration, and Meta is still on trial. But maybe they'll back off.
Let's face it. $40 million to Mark Zuckerberg, not a big check. Did you?
No, not the helicopter skiing thing.
Yeah. So this is from Sustainability Times, which I don't normally read, but I got to tell you, apparently Mark has 2 yachts, not just one. He has 2 yachts, one called Launchpad, the other aptly named Wingman. He wanted to go helicopter skiing in Norway. But the Norwegians have very strict laws about helicopter skiing and about landing helicopters in this pristine north and so forth. So he got around those laws by sailing his $300 million, 387-foot yacht Launchpad and its support vessel equipped with helipad Wingman, 5,300 miles to Svalbard, so they could be a floating base for him and his family for heli-skiing. They were able to heli-ski in essentially a completely isolated region very close to the Arctic Circle up in Svalbard. The boats are still in Svalbard area. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't know what it cost. It doesn't really matter. But to sail 2 super yachts 5,300 miles an hour now just for the purpose of taking a helicopter up to ski down. I don't think he's worried about a $43 million fine. Let's just put it that way.
I read the story, and a friend of mine worked on the island for 6 years. And there's one rule there. You have to have a gun with you at all times because polar bears are wild on there. And I couldn't help thinking, just for one polar bear, life could have been a little better.
Yeah. He's done this before. Last year, he sent his yacht to Tahiti, but never managed to get around to the vacation. So it just went down there and hung around a little bit. Now it's up in Svalbard. And
so what's this worth? 200 billion? Or I mean, Meta stock has kind of got up down.
Remember what Bill Gates said when he got past a couple of billion? He said, after a certain point, it's just infinite. There's nothing you can't buy.
Now, you see, I've always liked Joseph Heller's quote when he was speaking to a fellow author at a conference in New York. And he said, I'll have something these people will never have. Enough. And it's as simple as that.
Then why don't they act like they have enough?
And yet Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan have stopped funding a school very close to their home in a poor community in the Bay Area.
Utterly shameless.
Did they say why they stopped funding it? They tired of
priorities. I think is the line.
Yeah, the standard buzzword. It's just like, we've got we've got the PR we need from this. So screw them.
And the Chan Zuckerberg initiative has basically pulled back on anything related to social justice.
Well, no, I was in the press conference when they announced the Chan Zuckerberg initiative, and they're like, we want to have cures for all major diseases within 10 years. Yeah, how's that working out?
Well, it shows you maybe, and it teaches us to be a little cynical when companies announce these big initiatives. Are they announcing it because they really care, or are they announcing it because at the moment it's politically expedient? Because the minute it's not politically expedient, they pull the plug on it. They move with the winds. They're going to do what's best for them and their company, not for anybody else.
It's a tax dodge. You're basically giving a whole bunch of your revenue over to charity. It avoids taxes, and you can write the rest off. But
Mark Zuckerberg is still very mad at Apple. Interview with Ben Thompson over at Stratechery. He says that Facebook and Mark are deeply bitter about Apple's policies. A number of the things where they've just said, okay, you can't do those things where we think would be valuable. This is Mark, the direct quote, which I think to some degree contributes to some of that dynamic behavior between our company and theirs. He doesn't like Apple. Doesn't like Apple
match.
One bit.
I want to see a cage match between Cook and Zuckerberg. Las Vegas.
I know Mark studied, martial arts, but Cook looks like a wiry guy. I don't know. It's like the 100 gorillas. One gorilla versus 100 men. It's tough. It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
I don't know. I suspect Cook could be a tough cookie as it goes. But
he seems kind of wiry and yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So Zuckerberg was asked about, kind of their approach to AI and why they went open, and that I know why they didn't want to be the 10th, LLM, competing. But what he said was, we want to own the environment. He doesn't like that he was beholden, that Facebook, his various apps are beholden to Apple. And so even if he's not going to make money on his open source chatbot, he'll control the environment, and at least he will control his own destiny. So yeah, it sticks in his craw to the tune of many, many billions of dollars in the context of AI.
Yeah.
We have come to a certain situation, though, where, it's like somebody has multiple billions of dollars and can act a hissy fit, basically, and go up against Apple and go up against Trump.
He was I thought he was surprisingly candid, frankly, with Ben Thompson, because maybe this isn't something he should have admitted. Thompson asked him about open source AI. This is the quote you're, I think, referring to, Gary. "We're not building it," Mark said, "so that we can open source it for developers. We're building it because it's a thing that we believe we need in order to build the services they want." We want, not they want. Open source means something a little different, I think, to Mark than it does to the rest of the world. And there's some question about whether Llama is really open source. I guess open weight, or maybe more like, yeah, you can use it locally if you want.
What happened to the idea that, if you built your business on open source, you have a kind of moral responsibility to
no.
To in turn open source.
No, Google doesn't believe that with Chrome. In fact, Google admitted, we really, that's ours. It's all Google employees. Chrome would die without us. Android, same thing. No, these companies, it's all about profit.
Yeah, pretty much. Honestly, under American law, then corporations have a duty to their shareholders to maximize profit, no matter what the cost. So, yeah.
Mark said there are a number of AI revenue opportunities. One is business messaging. And of course, they own messaging with WhatsApp to a great degree. He says, "I think there should be very large business. They should be very large business ecosystems in their own right. And the way I think that's going to happen, we'll see the early glimpses of this, because business messaging is already a huge thing." Yeah, I guess they missed buying Slack when they could have.
Yeah. It's interesting that, now the antitrust people are looking at Instagram and WhatsApp and the rest of it and buying up the competition. He's suddenly playing a different tune, as it were, put it that way.
Meta did release, or actually really isn't a release. They updated the Meta app that you use with their Ray-Ban glasses to be now a kind of a social network, but it's just a feed of AI images. It's the last thing in the world that I would really want. But I guess the only good thing about this is they're keeping these images off of Instagram anyway, which is probably a good thing.
Zuckerberg has not really hit it yet with AI. Like into 2023, their whole idea was, I don't even know what you call it, like personality. So they had, Snoop Dogg, you could talk to a character. They used his voice. Your sports bro was Tom Brady. Again, you hear their voice and you can kind of just go chat. They paid millions and millions of dollars for the licensing, and they pulled the plug on that after a year. They've tried different things. They have the reach, right? I mean, they have billions of people on their various apps, and AI is right there. So I guess they have a lot of users, but they haven't figured it out yet. To me, messaging, that's just throwing something else at the wall and hoping it.
I think that's probably accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at how the metaverse has crashed and burned. It's just like,
he's kind of given up on that, hasn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand what's going on with that. They've literally burned billions on this, and nothing has come of it.
Well, I would say nothing. Here's tiny workers creating a giant sushi roll.
Oh, right. Well, that's
that ain't nothing. Here's cats running their own luxury fashion store. I mean, what more could you? It's kind of sad when you look at stuff like this. Here's Donald Trump in the Pope Mobile. It feels a little. By the way, his name is Pope Deportus.
Oh,
it's kind of sad to think that the rainforest is burning for this stuff.
No, I mean, it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just so much of this stuff is basically recycling and reusing. It's a tremendous waste of resources.
Well, and they're talking about, like, by 2030 we're going to have a doubling in the amount of data centers out there. I mean, what just happened this week in Spain and Portugal? They had
a giant blackout. Oh yeah. Did they ever find out why?
It was a transformer fire. Okay.
They say grid oscillation. I don't know what that is.
I have a friend in Portugal who's somewhat involved with it, and she said that basically it was two big transformer fires happening at the same time, and it just kicked the grid over. And it's fascinating that, how people dealt with it. Some people were stuck in elevators, some people were stuck in trains, some people weren't able to work, which in Spain is, not that bad. But,
The good news is it was not, and they were pretty able to rule this out as cyber attack, although that I live in fear of that at some point.
Well, I mean, as a reporter, when the EU said it is definitely not a cyber attack, that was like a Chinese military parade of red flags, because you can't say it's definitely not.
Sure, it wasn't.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just convinced that this is our future, that, we in the U.S. at least, we're not anticipating the great demand, in large part because of AI, but generally speaking, on the electrical grid. And I'm assuming these things are going to, unfortunately, happen more often because we're not planning for it. Whether there's this huge taxation on the system with, AI, every query, just takes up so much energy. It's going to grow more and more popular as it becomes more and more useful. And
don't you dare say thank you.
So I'm convinced that there are going to be these outages without some planning, and I'm pretty skeptical about our ability to plan for this.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the fact that we're still building data centers in Arizona of all places, what the hell is going on with that? It's possibly the worst place to build them, apart from the tax breaks.
Well, it's funny because that wasn't the only threat I was worried about. I also believe that Chinese hackers and others are living in our grid, just waiting for an opportunity to trigger a failure. So we've got two threats.
I mean, Volt Typhoon proved that. I was talking to somebody this week, and he was like, in December, he confirmed a story which had originally been reported a couple of weeks ago by the Wall Street Journal, that basically the Chinese negotiators and trade contract said, yeah, we're behind Volt Typhoon. We've been surveilling your systems just as you've been surveilling ours, and deal with it. It's basically America is not quite as powerful as it thinks it is.
But we have CISO. Oh, wait.
whistling past the graveyard, I think is the phrase. Let's take a little break. We've got more to come. I want to get you out of here by 4:30. Is that going to work for you, Gary? Can you keep it at 4:30? All right.
I'm here for the duration.
All right. Gary Rivlin is here. We've just lost Ian Thompson. He's turned off his camera. Owen, go ahead and put up the placard with a picture of you not moving, and we'll take a little time out. You're watching This Week in Tech. So glad you're here this week. This episode of This Week in Tech brought to you by our friends at Coda. I love seeing the team come together to make this show happen. What I don't love, trying to keep track of all the information and data and projects we're working on across dozens of platforms, products, and tools. Coda is the all-in-one collaborative workspace that's helped 50,000 teams all over the world get on the same page, offering the flexibility of docs with the structure of spreadsheets. Coda facilitates deeper teamwork and quicker creativity. And their turnkey AI solution, the intelligence of Coda Brain, is a game changer. Powered by Grammarly, Coda is entering a new phase of innovation and expansion, aiming to redefine productivity for the AI era. Whether you're a startup looking to organize the chaos while staying nimble, or an enterprise organization looking for better alignment, Coda matches your working style. Its seamless workspace connects to hundreds of your favorite tools, including Salesforce and Jira and Asana, Figma, helping your teams transform their rituals and do more faster. Head over to coda.io/twit right now and get 6 months of the team plan for startups for free. That's coda.io/twit and get 6 months of the team plan for free. Coda.io/twit. Good news. Elon Musk has gotten out from under his X debt. The Wall Street banks, which lent him $13 billion, have sold off. Well, actually, I guess it's not him that's out of the woods. It's the Wall Street banks. They sat on that $13 billion for quite a while, but it was smart to do so. They have been able to sell almost all of those loans at 98 cents on the dollar. So that's that. Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, 5 other banks all lent Elon Musk money to buy Twitter, a total of $13 billion. By the time the deal closed, X wasn't worth quite what he had paid for it. And those poor banks were stuck with those loans for a long time. But, of course, X's fortunes have turned around in a new era, and they are able now to get out of them. Go ahead.
Yeah. The thing that's amazing to me is if you completely ignore how Musk has mismanaged X as a business, fundamentally these loans should have lost value because of just the change in prevailing interest rates.
Well, and they did for a while. They go down to about 65 cents on the dollar. Yeah. I mean, they lost a lot.
And so
but it was on paper.
The thing that really saved X was that Musk assigned a roughly 25% stake in his AI startup, XAI, to X.
Yeah.
Therefore, kind of, basically bulking up the balance sheet of X.
So it wasn't really the political climate. It was the fact that he was able to merge X and Grok.
I think that was much. I think that was much more relevant to Wall Street's view of the value, the value of X debt.
Interesting.
And
of course, it's all a bet on AI becoming worth something instead of what it is right now, which is a great liability on the balance.
Right. Basically, will XAI be able to issue more shares, find someone to buy them, and then retire the debt with the proceeds? That's the bet.
And XAI right now is, at least on paper, its valuation, I think it's like $60 billion, so it's worth more. Than X.
Right.
And
that $13 billion loan is worth $15 billion or something.
They've now had XAI buy X with this paper valuation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is SPAC all over again. But I mean, in terms of Wall Street, then holding debt for 2.5 years, that's a massive liability. I'm sure they were very, very keen to get rid of that.
Right. Well, Elon has another victory. He was able to name the little town where most of the SpaceX employees live next to Boca Chica, his launch site. They've renamed it to Starbase, Texas. You now live in the Starbase. Elon is very much into sci-fi, obviously. It wasn't a big, not that many people were, only 283 people were eligible to vote on the renaming of the town. The people who actually live there, and almost all of them were SpaceX employees. So it's pretty much a given that the city would be renamed to Starbase. A new city in Texas is Cameron County, near the Boca Chica Beach launch site in the Gulf of America. Oh, they said the Gulf of Mexico. I'm sorry. Excuse me, Verge. It's the Gulf of America, please.
Right.
So what's the advantage? I saw that story and it's absurd, right? I mean, but what's the big advantage for Musk, SpaceX to have a town?
When the future is written, in the year 2830, they'll be able to look back and say, this is when Starbase was founded, I guess.
I mean, we've seen this before, though, with Disney. Disney bought up huge areas of Florida under a variety of shell companies. They got city incorporated. They have the right to run a nuclear reactor and an airport out of their own territory. So I guess he's just doing the same thing.
And it seems to have a lot to do with beach closures. Essentially, there's a Texas law or Texas bill under consideration that would let a municipality, in other words, a city.
Okay.
Because you remember there were a couple of launches, I think it was the Falcon Heavy, that spewed debris all over the beach at Boca Chica.
Well, also across the West Indies, but yes.
And shut down a few other things. But
and the other big thing, I bet, is housing for his employees. Right. I think that a city probably would be easier to influence in terms of, permitting housing.
Plus, who gets to be the mayor?
Exactly. Are you implying that Elon Musk has a big ego?
Sash. Yeah.
Two hats. He wears many hats.
Jeff Bezos, not to be left behind. He owns many hats. Now he can have the mayor hat.
Sorry, there's a lovely comedian's comment when you're putting too many hats on, and Gary just nailed it. It was just...
Amazon is deploying the first Project Kuiper internet satellites. Jeff Bezos' plan to compete with Starlink of SpaceX. 27 satellites now operating in low Earth orbits. So Amazon finally, it's been much delayed, able to start building its constellation of satellites. They would intend to have 3,200 satellites in the sky. The FCC agreed that it could do that as long as it got 1,600 in orbit by next summer. Obviously, they're not going to be able to do that, but they did get an extension from the FCC. By the way, what do they call these lift vehicles? The Vulcan Centaur. Naming is so very important in all of this. Amazon now has 80 launches scheduled to build this constellation of satellites. Starlink has over 7,000 already.
I was going to say, it makes a lot more sense than putting Katy Perry in orbit.
It does. It's not as good a publicity stunt, but it's more useful.
Also, from a register headline point of view, it was fantastic. Jeff Bezos' thrusting erection goes into...
Oy vey. I will point out that
it is circumcised. I will say that. Yeah,
but Amazon's network and Starlink apparently have kind of undisclosed or underreported environmental problems. When the satellites burn up on reentry,
this is new evidence that this is problematic. Yeah. Oh, who's that?
Oh, this is Fitzgerald Quimby. He was complaining about being ignored.
Oh, Mr. Quimby, a good-looking pup. Is he a full-grown or is he a baby?
He is a senior dog adopted from Muttville, a rescue operation here in San Francisco that is kind of indirectly funded by Larry Ellison. But that's
oh wow!
I didn't know he was a dog lover.
He's not, but he bought out Dave Duffield's company, PeopleSoft, and Duffield went on to donate to a lot of pet-related causes in the Bay Area. So thank you, Dave Duffield, and thank you, Larry.
And thank you, Mr. Quimby. It's nice to meet you. Another story from 404. This was a shocker. Researchers secretly ran a massive unauthorized AI persuasion experiment on Reddit users. If you've ever visited the Change My View subreddit, you know, that's a place where you would post something like, I really think that if you're going to launch a rocket, it should have the thrusters on the back, and then change my mind.
Right.
Normally, the responses are from other Redditors. In this case, it was from the University of Zurich, which ran bots that would answered more than 1,000 or posted more than 1,000 comments over the course of several months. The bots posed as experts in the area. A black man who was opposed, for instance, to the Black Lives Matter movement. Someone who works at a domestic violence shelter. One bot suggested that certain kinds of criminals should not be rehabilitated. All of this as an experiment to see if the bots could be persuasive. By the way, they could.
Well, no, we've seen this. We've seen this before. Do you remember 2013? A couple of researchers said that, yeah, we work with Facebook. We put negative messages out and positive messages out, and we've been able to change people's minds about certain things. This is disturbing stuff.
It's certainly not ethical, right?
Right. I was going to say the same thing, aren't there? It just obliterates any kind of ethical line. And by the way, to me, this is one of my big fears about AI, that it's going to be used to manipulate people. As the story points out, it was very effective, far more effective than humans at changing minds. And, you know, I mean, getting people to think differently is a good thing, but I'm worried about AI manipulating people, and it's going to know us so well, and it's going to understand how to push certain buttons. And so to me, this is what the canary in the mine kind of thing. Like, I think this is going to be a way AI is used a lot, in a way that makes us really by advertisers. I mean, in all sorts of ways to manipulate our behavior.
There's a long history of highly unethical and yet amazingly useful studies being performed, most of them from earlier times when the ethics weren't as well established, on you know, like the Stanford prison experiment and so forth. I think it's good we learned this, that AI can be persuasive, more persuasive than humans. No, it's a shameful way to learn it. And by the way, Reddit says they're considering legal action against the University of Zurich. And yeah, it was a valuable lesson, wasn't it?
So what are we going to do with it? I mean,
well,
here,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no! Here in San Francisco, they just opened up a storefront in Union Square, our retail district, for World, which is.
Oh yeah, you can get your.
I was there on.
They have
Thursday.
orbs.
Yeah.
I know.
Ian, did you get scanned?
I fucking sorry.
Are you a bot? How do we know? If you didn't get scanned, how do we know if you're a bot or not?
Well, no, I mean, I deliberately didn't. I went in there, and it was hilarious, because at the launch event, they're like, "Oh, we're building Apple-like stores." It was like somebody just got Home Depot to build a little wooden thing and put these orbs on there, and they're also offering $16 for your iris scan. Yeah, well, go to hell, because.
Well, all right. So people did it, obviously, right?
Well, they were saying there was a massive rush of people. I sat outside that store for 20 minutes.
Nobody
and
rushed.
There were like 4 people going in and out, and 2 of them came out.
I was going to sell a pint of my blood, but I think I'll come in here and scan my iris instead.
Yeah,
I think that they are figuring out how to market this, though, which is, you know.
I mean, I scan my iris for clear.
Yeah. So, and that's how they're marketing it. They're saying This is just like TSA pre-check. Like, don't you want to get things faster and feel fancy? And
yeah, but I mean,
that's a lot.
The company says it doesn't store images of your iris, just a hash.
No, it doesn't. And they're correct in that. Basically, you get the iris scan, you get the face scan as a backup. It connects via Bluetooth to your phone. That builds a blockchain ident. But at the same time, their entire pitch is, because you're human, but you can sell the accounts onto other people. And the best use case they've come up for this is games, dating, and social media.
So should Reddit basically use world to verify all its users.
Yeah, there you go. That's better than a CAPTCHA.
I mean, does that obviously stops the unethical AI experiments, but it raises all kinds of new questions.
Well, what's the thing Sam Altman is behind?
This is
it.
Yeah. Oh, this is it. Okay.
This is it.
No, Sam Altman's behind it. They're basically trying to build they've got 12 million people signed up. So another 7 billion to go, but that's beside the by. It's an interesting idea, but I just don't trust the source. It's like, I'm not going to give my identity to Sam Altman. It
feels like, look, we had the same problem in the U.S. Nobody wants a universal government ID card either, right? But it feels like there is a case to be made that it would be nice to have something. Estonia has a digital ID card. In fact, I have an Estonian digital identity card because you could buy it as a foreigner as well. It seems like it's not a bad thing to have a way of proving not merely that you're human, but that you are who you say you are. Authentication is a big problem right now.
Identity theft. I guess we could have a Mission Impossible movie where Tom Cruise has his fake iris. So I guess you could crack this. But, it reminds me of our earlier conversation. It's like on paper, it sounds great. But I'm with Ian. I'm just not trusting the folks who are collecting this information. What happened with 23andMe? Oh, it's save it. Oh, we're declaring bankruptcy. Tough shit.
Right.
Absolutely. Right. No, but I'm with you. If you could do this in an open source, easily verifiable format, and people chose to do it, I'd be fine with it. But at the moment, handing this over to a commercial company, as you pointed out with 23andMe, no, just no.
Right.
It's interesting. They're not using it as authentication of your identity, just merely that you are a human.
That picture that you're putting up right now is from the Fort Mason event. They're a lot less stylish inside the store on Union Square.
It's not as pretty, huh?
Yeah.
But it's permanent, right? They're going to continue to keep it there, are they?
Oh, yeah. No. They're going to keep it in San Francisco and 5 other cities, Nashville, a bunch of others. And they plan to get 7,500 orbs around the US to try and get people to sign in. But at the end of the day, it doesn't offer anything particularly that you couldn't get elsewhere. It's just basically somebody saying, I'm going to scan your iris and this is your corporate ID. And
unlike you, Kevin Roos of the New York Times was perfectly happy to scan his iris.
I am deeply disappointed.
Kevin thinks that the AI is in love with him. He's all in on the AI thing. He says you don't get cash, by the way. You get WorldCoin.
Yes, you get
WorldCoin, right.
You get $16 worth of WorldCoin, which is worth $16.07 in actual currency, as long as the currency. So
Roos said he got 39.22 WorldCoin tokens.
Oh, really?
At today's price is $40.77. He also says I'll be donating them to charity once I figure out how to get them off my phone.
Yeah.
a lot of good that's going to do you.
Well, this is the whole thing. The biometric data is sticky as all hell. And
right.
Well,
we gave 23andMe my spit. He quotes a social media influencer named Hannah Stocking, who said, "What am I hiding anyway? Who cares? Take it all."
And why do you have curtains in your house? Yes.
Take it all. Full disclosure, I've mentioned this a lot, but Joanna Stern just did a piece at the Wall Street Journal about the limitless pin, the Flawed note, and the B AI device, which I've been wearing since January, like her, and it's collecting all my conversations. And
no.
Well, how did the permissions
Leo,
work?
what happened?
It's funny, after the Wall Street Journal, I'm like Hannah Stocking. I don't care. Take it all. What's funny is after the Joanna Stern article came out and quoted lawyers who said, you might want to consider if you're in a two-party state or a one-party state. She is in New York and New Jersey, which is a single-party state. But I'm in California. That's a two-party state. So B put up a little notice saying, hey, you should ask for permission before you record anybody.
Well,
the
Limitless
B does not save recordings. It just analyzes them and then sends them off.
I'm sorry, I'm married to a paralegal. From a discovery perspective, this is absolute nightmare territory.
Well, okay. I'll just to reassure you guys, it can't hear you because I'm wearing headphones, so it can't tell you. But here's what it's recorded from today.
This episode at the end of the day, so that a million people.
Yeah, and it's recorded, right? We recorded it. Yeah, you're right. I don't care. Here's what it got from earlier today. Leo expresses excitement about Verstappen's recent racing performance and speculates on the potential of upcoming drivers while also engaging in personal discussions about family, tech updates, and various life topics with participants. They've started taking other people's names out of there, I think.
No, I mean, this is why I've stayed off social media all day, because I've got a Grand Prix to watch up.
I'm not going to tell, but you know who got pole, right?
No, I know who got pole, just don't tell me anymore.
You don't know anything. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know who won the race.
I watched the first 5 laps, and they look really good.
I didn't even watch that, so I'm excited. Let's see what else. It also does to-dos. So what's funny about the Bee is it's a lot more organized than I am. It will often say things like, make a list of all of the ideas that you talked about today on This Week in Tech. And I mean, it's done. Organize and review the spiral-bound piano books picked up yesterday, incorporating them into your practice routine. Review and finalize the custom knife order details discussed with Jeff Jarvis. I don't know why it says that, including design specifications and potential collaboration. It is interesting.
I mean, this is exactly what Bruce Schneier was talking about in his keynote at the RSA conference, in terms of we are going to get AI agents. They are going to be biased because they're built by corporations who are designed to maximize profits. So you've got to have a real trust and verification thing on this. So be very, very careful.
Well, I know I'm handing over a hell of a lot of information.
Yeah, exactly.
To somebody I have no idea. I mean, I've interviewed the founders, but that doesn't mean anything, and I don't know what they're doing with it. My theory is, though, that someday this will be because this has been recording everything that has happened to me since January, that when the AI gets better, it's going to have a treasure trove of information to work on. It knows that I visited Morty's cat adoption lounge yesterday. That's pretty good. A day of playful banter, thoughtful plans for new cats, and humorous problem solving.
But why would you give that information to anyone else?
Well, in order to get it for myself, I have to give it to somebody else to analyze.
I'm going to confess I've been attracted to these. I don't have a particularly good memory.
Exactly.
If I didn't write it down, I'm not really sure it happened. And so I am attracted. I do wonder about kind of couples where, like, you said this, I didn't say this. If you can kind of go and figure it out.
It was my hope that I would be able to use it for that purpose.
Oh, yeah, right.
But it's unfortunately not that accurate.
Yeah, and right, Lisa's going to let that slide.
No, I haven't dared. I have a recording of our conversation. I'd like to play it back for you now. Actually, she's usually right.
I mean, I can understand it from a work perspective. If, your manager says, do this, you do it and it screws up, and then this is, I didn't tell you to do this, and you can play it back to them. But at the same time, it seems like an enormous amount of information to be giving out for very little gain.
I would like to stay married. I'm just saying I am not going to use this to win any arguments. Let's take a little quick break and actually, we've got some interesting technological breakthroughs coming up in our final stories. You're watching This Week in Tech. Gary Rivlin, great to have you. Ian Thompson. And of course, the wonderful Owen Thomas. We've got Thompson and Thomas and Rivlin and me. Our show today brought to you by Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. We were just talking about this. Hackers are using AI to breach your organization, to craft phishing scams. And I mean, AI powers innovation and drives efficiency, but it also helps bad actors deliver more relentless and effective attacks. Phishing attacks over encrypted channels increased by 34.1% last year, fueled by the growing use of generative AI tools and phishing as a service kits. Yes, phishing as a service. It had to happen, right? Organizations in all industries, from small to large, are leveraging AI to do some really good things. Increase employee productivity with public AI, engineers and coding assistants, marketers with writing tools, Finance, creating spreadsheet formulas, instantly. Businesses also use it to automate workflows for operational efficiency across individuals and teams. We're seeing AI embedded into applications and services that are customer and partner facing. It helps a business move faster in the market, gain competitive edge. But it also opens you up to attack. Companies need to rethink how they protect their private and public use of AI and how they defend against those AI-powered attacks. It's a double-edged sword. Jason Kohler, he's the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO, at Eaton Corporation. Of course, I'm sure you know them. They leverage Zscaler to both embrace AI innovations and combat AI threats. Here's the quote from Jason. He says, quote, "Data loss detection has been very helpful for us. ChatGPT came out. We had no visibility into it. Zscaler was our key solution initially to help us understand who was going to it, what they were uploading. Traditional firewalls, VPNs, the security measures we've used up to now expose you to danger, giving you public-facing IP addresses, and they're really no match in the AI era for AI-empowered hackers. It's time for a modern approach. Zscaler has comprehensive zero trust architecture. This is the gold standard for protecting yourself. Plus, they use AI to ensure safe public AI productivity. They protect the integrity of the private AI you're using, and they stop those AI-powered attacks. Zscaler Zero Trust Plus AI to stay ahead of the competition and remain resilient, even as threats and risks evolve. Learn more at zscaler.com/security. That's ZSCALER, zscaler.com/security. We thank him so much for supporting This Week in Tech and our wonderful panel. And our final few stories. We wrap things up. Did you watch the Kentucky Derby?
Journalism lost.
Journalism lost, as it has been all along. So it's a weird story because in 2016, somebody used AI to pick the winners in the Kentucky Derby, and it picked all four of them, or all five of them, like the first five places. It was incredibly successful. Didn't do so well this time around. They used the USA Today network asked Copilot, Microsoft's AI. That was their mistake. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm sorry. In the list of AI,
it's not number one in your mind.
Is not number one. No, it's probably not even number three.
They gave it the latest odds, the predictions, the race factors. They asked Copilot to simulate the order of finish for the Kentucky Derby field. In this projection, journalism won. Of course, it was the favorite. So maybe it wasn't such a brilliant pick. Didn't win in the long run, right? Its number two pick did. Sovereignty was an 11-1 pick and did win. The AI also thought that Rodriguez would come in. Do you say come in third in a horse race?
What is up with these horse names?
Rodriguez scratched. Sandman, Burnham Square, Luxor Cafe. I know, aren't they great? I think they're short for even longer ones, though, right?
They must be. But, I mean, Las Vegas is full of bankrupts who think they've got a system.
I know.
And this is exactly the same thing.
Anyway, AI did not do so well. In 2016, it was an online swarm intelligence platform that made the correct prediction. I don't even know what that is. I guess it's kind of like an AI. It named all four top finishers in order. So people got real excited. Apparently, ChatGPT also picked journalism, according to FanDuel. Sovereignty, which a horse Copilot predicted would finish second, came in first, and journalism came in second. Well, that's not so bad. It just got the order reversed.
Well, when you're losing the money, though, it's pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, if you're placing a bet. Co-pilots picked for fourth place Sandman. She finished, or I don't know what its pronouns are. Sandman finished in 18th place. So
okay, that's a quick trip to the dog food factory then. Yeah.
Burnham Square, 11th place. Luxor Cafe, 10th place. Yeah, so it didn't really do all that well. An online racing publication also got in the act. They asked a, quote, trained AI LLM tool for their predictions, and it was completely wrong. So it did pick journalism as a second place finisher, but everybody else completely off. So I guess the moral is don't use AI to pick your horses.
Well, I mean, kind of the bigger, more serious point here is like we're using AI for all things that AI shouldn't be used for. One of my favorites is like someone in 2023, a conservative, to make a point about woke AI, kind of gave, I think it was ChatGPT, but one of the large language models, type out the N-word or 1 million people die. And of course, that's absurd. You would do that. A human would do that. But like, why are you going for your ethical questions? Go ask the ethicist at the New York Times Magazine or something. But this is the bigger problem with AI. Like you need to figure out what it's good at and what it's not good at, what you should rely on it for and what you should. And still, it's not 100% reliable. But, picking horses to win, place, or show.
Well, come to think of it, the exact worst thing to get AI to do is predict the future, because AI is based on everything that's happened up to the point that it was training happened, right? It's not, how would it know the future?
Yeah, and I actually know horse racing some, and I've lost. And it's based on like a lot of human factors.
Right.
It's like what's the weather conditions, and kind of like you could study how this jockey or that jockey has done. So there's kind of stuff an AI would be good at. But anyway, it's kind of fun that they did it. It's revealing that it was no good at it. I'm going to guess with 2016, it was probably more or less the favorites that won, and so it was able to predict 1, 2, 3,
That's
4,
exactly
5.
Right. Yep.
Because like, okay, well, that's, how do you win the NCAA men's basketball tournament? You pick all the favorites.
I guess it makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I don't play the horses, but if you pick the favorites, you would win more often than not than random, I guess, right? Or no?
I mean, if you believe in Moneyball and baseball, right? Then all of that is statistics. And
so you should ask what the horse's on base percentage is.
Well, my point is like if it's a statistically based analysis of how past performance shapes future results.
There you go.
If we think that works, then AI ought to be able to automate it.
You're talking like a prospectus.
Well, I mean, if you're playing the ponies, you look at the form. You look at what the horses have done before, which AI would be great at. But as Gary points out, if it's raining on the race course...
Well, you can add that, though, can't you? You could say, oh, and by the way, it's muddy, so pick a mudder. I mean, you could give it... It's really a question of not giving it all the parameters. If you gave it all the information, would it do a better job than
if you have all the information, why do you need an AI?
You should be able to figure it out. Because an AI is smarter than I am.
All right, what I would use AI for in this case is to set the odds.
There you go.
Right? I mean, it's sort of like based on past performance.
Well, it's pari-mutuel. I mean, again, I don't know anything about it, but don't the odds are affected by how the betting's going, right? The front runner is based on how many people picked it.
And what the bookmaker is willing to pay.
Well, they start off with odds and they shift them up.
It's pari-mutuel. So as the bets come in, the odds shift.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, right. But that makes sense. They have to start somewhere.
You have to set the original odds.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
I don't know if this is good or not, but a quantum message has traveled over a record-breaking 158 miles of standard fiber optic cables in Germany, making the first time coherent quantum communication has been accomplished using existing telecommunications infrastructure without requiring expensive cryogenic cooling.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and it's still going to take a long time to get here.
I need an Ansible. Well,
no, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like fusion is 10 years away. Quantum,
right.
It's okay. They've made a really good step forward on this, but at the same time, in the real world, it's probably not going to work for another 3 to 5 years.
That's a bold prediction.
Very
sounds
good.
Pretty optimistic.
Yeah, and journalism is going to win the Kentucky Derby next year. I love it. Journalism came in second. That's pretty much the story of this week.
That I saw the title for the show, and I'm just like, yeah. Go for it.
Mike Waltz apparently has abandoned Signal for an even less secure third-party version of Signal. And how do we know? Because somebody took a picture of him using it at a cabinet meeting.
Honestly, all credit to the Reuters reporter that did that and got that shot. I've been in contact with the company that's running it. There's a lot of
Signal. What's it called? Signal TM. It's like a third party.
It's basically run by a company called S Marsh that bought the Israeli company that built the app. It's an archiving app. So it uses the Signal protocol in transit, but then saves. Because apparently Mike Waltz, who has since been fired, by the way, thought that the problem with using Signal was promoted to.
I'm sorry, promoted. What did I say? Fired? Promoted. Apparently, he believed the issue with the Signal app was that it did not preserve the records.
Well, it was. The 1950s Federal Records Act is perfectly clear on this.
It wasn't the only issue, but it was one of the issues. The other issue was he included the editor-in-chief of the Atlantic magazine inadvertently in the chat. That's another issue, separate issue.
I'm serious. As a journalist, I read that story and I was like, you lucky.
I know. Jeffrey Goldberg scored, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Telemessage, or TM Signal, is a fork of Signal that allows you to archive the messages. But, of course, if you're archiving the messages, they're archived in clear text.
Well, it's not a fork of Signal in itself. It's an add-on app which sits on top of Signal, and they've got like 100 other apps that they can sit on top of and record them.
Which brings home the problem of using Signal is that on your phone it's in clear text, so it can be archived by something like TM Signal.
This is the problem that we've seen with lawsuits over the last 5 years, is that people don't auto-delete their messages on Signal. It is a perfectly good end-to-end encrypted messaging system. But if you don't delete your messages and someone grabs your phone and gets access to it, end of story.
Well, that's what happened to Corey Lewandowski when he got indicted. He had been using Signal, which was encrypted, but he'd been backing it up to iCloud, which was not. And by the way, that's how I learned anyway that iCloud is not private, that Apple has the keys because it showed up in the indictment.
It's the thing about Signal I love is that it was created by a guy called Moxie Marlinspike, who is was an anarchist and also a sailor, which we have something in common. But I mean, he created basically an unbreakable encryption system. They ported it to WhatsApp in a rather bad way, but now US government is using it.
Yeah. Well, they're not supposed to, but they're using it.
Well, it's not listed on FedRAMP, but let's face it, everyone's using it.
It is not FedRAMP approved. That's really important to keep in mind. And as long as we're talking breakthroughs, and I have no idea how important this is or not, but it comes from Tom's Hardware, that, of course, Chinese computer scientists have been somewhat inhibited by United States restrictions on chip technology. So they decided to do their own. A Chinese university has designed the world's first silicon-free transistor. A research team from Peking University created a two-dimensional low-power GAFET transistor. It's a wafer-scale, multi-layer stacked single crystalline 2D GAA configuration, uses no silicon, and it's faster, by the way, and lower power than traditional silicon transistors. GAFET stands for Gate All-Around Field Effect Transistors. the next evolution after MOSFETs and FinFETs, which you've probably heard about. But to do it without silicon is big news, and they did it because they didn't have access to the latest 3 nanometer chips. They claim this new GAFET transistor is both faster and lower power than the 3 nanometer TSMC processors. It uses bismuth oxyselenide as a semiconductor instead of silicon.
I mean, you said they claim, which is very accurate.
That's the big story, isn't it?
Yeah. But at the same time, we're cutting China off from high-end, tiny nanometer stuff, but they'll find ways round. They're putting billions into this.
It confirms what I've always believed, that sometimes restrictions are good for creativity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Deepfake, right?
Yeah, that's why poets write haiku and sonnets. It's not that it's easier, it's that it's harder.
Yeah, but I think we need to remember there's a whole infrastructure around chip production and packaging that,
Oh, I don't know if this is that same, question that we had earlier about, quantum messaging. Is it going to be a product in the next 3 to 5 years? I don't even think that. But clearly China, because it can't get EUV lithography from the United States, is investing heavily in creating new kinds of processors, which is probably good for everybody.
Well, I mean, you're right, Owen, in terms of packaging. This is a massive issue for the chips. But I honestly think China is getting away with it. They're doing really good stuff.
No, I mean, they will figure out the value chain eventually. If they're serious about it. Finally.
From Ian Thompson, the one interview question that will protect you from North Korean fake workers. We talked about this on Security Now and quite extensively, which is there are 2 reasons the North Koreans want to get into our companies. One is they need hard currency, period. They need, the North Korean currency is not as valuable, let's say, as the dollar. But also it's a great way to infiltrate these companies and hack them. And it has turned out that in many cases, you think you're hiring a remote worker who's based in Texas, when in fact it's some guy out of North Korea. So you say, Ian, that we found a way to detect these bogus infiltrators?
Well, we found a way and we destroyed a way. Basically, it was one of those marvelous moments in press conference where you hear the quote and you think, nailed it. That's the thing.
This was at RSAC. This was at the RSA conference on Monday in San Francisco.
So basically, from the data I've been seeing, Jen Easterly was talking about this. A bunch of people were talking about it. About one IT staff person is being hired a day who's working in North Korea.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And but the question that CrowdStrike suggested that you would ask was, how fat is Kim?
What do the North Korean imposters say if you ask them how fat their dear leader is?
Okay, their families are on the line, so they're not going to say anything. But unfortunately, now this question is out there, then they're going to be told to lie. And it's just like, it's okay, your family won't be killed, your grandparents won't be starved to death. So it's one of those things where
you need surprise for this to work, in other words.
Exactly. Now I'm wondering what the situation is in China. It's just like, does Xi Jinping look like Winnie the Pooh? It's just one of those.
There are things. There are probably things you could ask.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the scale in which the North Koreans moving into IT jobs is something that over the last couple of weeks I've been doing a lot of stuff on, and it's really terrifying because, with the ability of AI to spam out job resumes and bogus LinkedIn stuff, they're taking millions out of us and also putting IT workers out of a job.
We had a great I wish I could remember the source of the story on Security Now, where a guy decided, I know this guy's a North Korean imposter, but I'm going to continue with the conversation. And what's interesting is that they used ChatGPT, they use AI in the conversation. So you'll ask them a technical question, there'll be a pause, there'll be some typing, and then they will come up with a perfectly crafted answer from ChatGPT or some other AI.
Wouldn't American job applicants do the same thing though?
Yeah, I wonder. Come to think of it, the CrowdStrike executive, he's the senior vice president in the counter adversary division. Adam Myers said, one of the things we've noticed is you'll have a person in Poland applying with a very complicated name, and then when you get them on Zoom calls, it's a military-age male Asian who can't pronounce the Polish name.
It was astonishing quite how badly this is managed, but I can see how it works if people don't do personal contact. I mean, the one thing that was really interesting was they were saying if a North Korean actually gets this job, then you've got 3 or 4 people behind him who are doing the coding to help him out.
Right.
You've got 4 people working on, one person's job, and they get rave reviews. They get promoted within the company.
Yeah.
And we've seen this before. It's a really good way to get in there. They steal the IP that they want, and then they ransomware the company.
What happens if you ask DeepSeek how fat Kim Jong-il is?
You get shot.
Let me just ask Perplexity. I've always wondered if Perplexity would...
Kim Jong-un, not
Il. Il's his father, right?
Yeah.
308 pounds for the son.
There's a story that the British intelligence agencies used to work out what Kim's mood was by how much brandy he was importing and how much pornography he was importing. It's a bizarre tale.
This is interesting. Perplexity knew I meant Kim Jong-un. He said, no, you mean Kim Jong-un. He's 308 pounds, 5'7" or 8. So not a good weight. No.
Well, he also
unless you're an NFL linebacker. In which case, we'll take it.
He had his uncle executed by anti-aircraft gun, which is generally not a good sign of mental health. But
no, talk about spite. Gary, you've been very patient. You did not know ahead of time this was a 3-hour marathon. You've done a great job. He is the author of AI Valley, which I really sincerely highly recommend. A great history of AI, taking us up to the present. So if you're curious about how we got here, this is a great book to read with lots of interesting anecdotes and stories. You did a fantastic job. What are you working on next? You want
to? Still promoting it. Thinking of just crypto. Obviously, you talked about the grift, but just what it means that we're taking regulators off the beat, whether it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the SEC, the Justice Department. Like, there'll be no regulation of meme coins and stuff. That just kind of like merging my tech with my Broke USA.
I like it.
So yeah.
Look forward to it. Meanwhile, AI Valley, Microsoft, Google, and the $1 trillion race to cash in on artificial intelligence just came into the bookstores about 2 weeks ago.
6 weeks ago. Yeah.
March 25th. Yeah. Very nice. A really good book. Highly recommended. The centerpiece of it is Reid Hoffman, who is a connector and a perfect guy, the founder of LinkedIn, perfect guy to use as kind of your basis. And it was really just a fascinating story. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you for being here, Gary. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. This was a lot of fun.
It's always nice to have a Pulitzer Prize winner on the show. I think you're probably our first. I don't know.
Respect.
Ian? Are you Yeah, I know. That's good. Are you working on that Pulitzer Prize, Arian? Maybe you're next.
Actually, I'm working on I'm working on a non-fiction book. It turns out that you
were writing a novel the last time I talked to you.
Well, it turns out an ancestor of mine started London's first electric taxi company in 1897. So we're going to see some interesting stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not going to be giving any more away, but it's pretty good. Yeah, we'll see.
Sounds good. Very nice. You'll find Ian's work at theregister.com and as often as we can on our shows. Thank you, Ian. It's great to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Owen Thomas is the managing editor at the San Francisco Business Times. I wish I didn't see the link until too late. You have a story in the Business Times, a Business Journal about a privacy czar being assigned to the 23andMe case.
Yes, that was from our biotech reporter, Ron Ludy. I was going to pop in with it. we were talking about 23andMe, I think it's a positive sign that
yes,
when your personal data is kind of in play, as it is in this bankruptcy, it's not going to just be kind of handed over to any buyer, that there's going to be some scrutiny. So,
it's too late. I already deleted my spit, but that's yeah.
At least the courts are
good, paying attention.
Still,
yeah.
Taking a stand.
Will the czar have the ability to say, okay, you can buy this company, but not its data?
I think that is the intent. The judge has proposed appointing this czar. There's not a czar in place yet, just to be clear.
Good. Well, we'll follow the story at the San Francisco Business Times, bizjournals.com/San Francisco. Thank you, Owen. Great to have you.
My pleasure.
Thanks to all three of you. Thanks, of course, to our Club Twit members who make the show possible with their contributions. We are very grateful to you all. $7 a month gets you ad-free versions of the show. You're giving us money. I always hate it when, like Netflix charges you and then shows you ads too. No, wait a minute. No ads. If you join the club, you also get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is always a great place to hang out. Lots of valuable information there and a great social network. You also get special events like we did our photography show on Friday. The Stacey's Book Club is coming up, our AI user group, a whole lot more. All that for $7 a month, $84 a year seems like a good deal. I hope you will consider. We'd love to have you in the club. twit.tv/clubtwit. We do this show every Sunday afternoon, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC. You can watch it live on 8 different platforms. Club Twit members get to watch in Discord, but you also can watch on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, X.com, and Kick. But you don't have to watch live. In fact, really, most people will watch whenever they feel like it. You can download copies of the show, audio or video, at our website, twit.tv. There's a link there to our YouTube channel where you can watch the video, or it's a great way to share little clips. And of course, after the fact, you can subscribe in any wherever you get your podcasts, as they say. Any of your favorite podcatchers, audio or video. Subscribe. It's free. You'll get it every week. We thank you for being here. 21 years now. We're in our 21st year, and as I have said for the last 20 years, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.
Amazing.